welcome to episode 11 of Giant Mess. I am your host, Neal Lynch. I am a giant mess. I am a Giants and Mets fan who loves comedy, movies, television, and a whole lot more. On this week's episode, we're going to talk about the new trailers, the first trailers for Birds of Prey with Margot Robbie and The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey. We're also going to talk about Friday the 13th, Part 2. I saw it. What did I think about it? Stick around to find out. Also watched, completed season 5 of The Sopranos. Things are getting good there. You're gonna hear my thoughts on that. I also caught up on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Lots of love for Always Sunny, and it's gonna be a love fest, big time for that show in this episode. I also talk about the Mets finishing their season. What's in store for Mickey Callaway? What do we do with J.D. Davis? Jacob deGrom, is the Cy Young's in the bag, right? And then we'll finish up with the Giants, talking about their Week 4 win against the Redskins and looking ahead to Week 5 against the Vikings and Kirk Cousins. So let's get started. All right. First off, the new trailers, the first trailers for Birds of Prey and The Gentleman. Birds of Prey is a movie starring Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie is Harley Quinn. Apparently she broke up with the Joker. Not sure how I feel about it. That's kind of like the whole shtick. I know they kind of touched on it in Suicide Squad, but it's just like they just broke up. That's it. They were just going to, was Jared Leto that bad as a Joker, folks? Could we not get behind that at all? Are we that spoiled by Heath Ledger and Jack Nicholson and now Joaquin Phoenix that we can't get behind Jared Leto as a Joker? We can't just shoehorn Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker into this movie? I don't know. The trailer looks amazing. First off, I mean, they're full on embracing, the Harley Quinn character. Margot Robbie nails it yet again. She's bringing in Rosie Perez as one of the characters, and apparently she plays the first openly gay superhero in movie history. So that's something, a nice feather in the cap. It's written by the woman who wrote Bumblebee, which I haven't seen yet, but has gotten incredible reviews. And it's directed by a young woman who directed a movie called Dead Pigs. Haven't seen it. I know that it was an indie darling at Sundance, which, those can be hit or miss, if we're being honest. I mean, they're either will swoop you off your feet, or it's just I can't believe 2 hours of my life down the turlet. So I'm excited for it. The only thing that kind of threw me off with this trailer, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is in this playing the Huntress, or just Huntress, not the Huntress. Ewan McGregor is in it. He plays the evil crime lord named Black Mask, which interesting combination there. So Rosie Perez plays Renee Montoya. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the casting on that is just spot on. And Ali Wong, I don't know if you've ever seen Ali Wong, but she's a stand-up comedian. I've now seen, I think she only has 2 specials. I think they're both on Netflix, and they're both incredible. I believe she's a writer on Fresh Off the Boat. I don't know if she's in it, but she's probably a writer. And she also had that movie, that rom-com with the other guy from Fresh Off the Boat that I highly suggest. Don't remember the name. Unbelievable. Can you believe that? But Netflix, just Netflix it. Ali Wong, it'll come up at some point somewhere. But I'm excited about this movie. The only thing that kind of threw me off is that it's hitting theaters February 7th, 2020, which, if you're a movie buff, you know that February releases not great. Unless you're doing a 50 Shades of Grey release for Valentine's Day. Typically, the February movies, more miss than hit. January and February, they're slow months. March, it just starts to pick up. And April's kind of and then May it's through the roof, and then you have the summer blockbusters and whatnot. So the fact that this is slotted for February 7th, 2020, kind of it's got my flags are up, my sensors are up, my spidey sense is going off. Maybe this is not what we thought it would be. maybe the studio doesn't have confidence in it. I mean, Black Panther released in February because they probably thought, oh, black-led movie can't do shit. We'll just dump it in February. And of course, it went on to become one of the highest grossing superhero films, if not movies, of all time. So maybe that's like that's like the MO for studio execs now, is like, if it has potential, but we don't want to put too much investment into it, we'll just put it in February. I don't know. I mean, it's right around the Super Bowl, so could be a tough weekend. If it's the Super Bowl weekend, I think it might be the weekend after that it releases. The official synopsis: after splitting with the Joker, Harley Quinn joins superheroes Black Canary, Huntress, and Renee Montoya to save a young girl from an evil crime lord named Black Mask. Yeah, again, I don't know. Split with the Joker, I'm just not into it. I just don't feel it. I think, he's such a magnetic character, and my guess is that, he's the reason she becomes Harley Quinn, because of all the nonsense that he did to her, the abuse and whatnot. He made her, he created her. So you got to think there's going to be remnants of him bouncing around her dome. And to be honest, it'd be a shame if they just completely, just don't show him in flashbacks or what have you. Just completely eliminate him or omit him from the whole script. I think that'd be an egregious error. Of course, they could also play with that idea, knowing that there was the split, and just feed us no Joker and just hit us with the Joker right at the climax. Whew. I got tingles just thinking about that. I love all these characters that have black in front of it. Black Canary, Black Mask, Black Adam. What? You don't see I don't know. You just don't see a lot of there's none of blue this, red that. Here and there, maybe white. There's just none of that. It's always black. I don't know. I guess canary on its own is not exactly. It's like, oh, canary, really? You're gonna chirp me to death? Black canary? Whoa! What do you have? A gun or something? Is that bird have a gun? So it's it's got comedy. I believe the full title is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. So it's going to be a lot of female empowerment, which is great. And it's very female driven, obviously female director, female writer. Most of the cast is female, villains male. But very colorful. There were some funny parts of the trailer. Margot Robbie just nails the Harley Quinn character. So I'm looking forward to that for sure. The Gentleman, this is a movie that I don't think I'm looking forward to, which is crazy because it's got an all-star cast. Got Matthew McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy, and Pacific Rim, and I think it was a Triple Threat or something like that. Triple Point, whatever that Netflix movie is with Vince Vaughn. Michelle Dockery from Downton Abbey, which did well at the box office. I think it was number 2 this past weekend. Jeremy Strong from Succession, another show that I need to catch up on and check out. Colin Farrell, which, anytime you get Colin Farrell in the mix, I'm getting them good vibes. Henry Golden from Crazy Rich Asians. I think he played Nick, the male romantic interest. But the synopsis on this is: a very British drug lord tries to sell off his highly profitable empire to a dynasty of Oklahoma billionaires. And it's written and directed by Guy Ritchie, who did Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, both Sherlock Holmes movies, not the Holmes and Watson movie with Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly, which, why in the world was that movie ever made? I haven't seen it, but I've just heard such horrible things about it that it's I don't even know how much alcohol needs to be in my system or drugs, or how altered my mind needs to be to enjoy that movie. That might be make for a good video. He also directed The Man from U.N.C.L.E. and Aladdin, which I completely forgot about. Completely skipped over. But The Man from U.N.C.L.E., I would suggest checking that out if you haven't yet. It's got Henry Cavill plays Superman, and Armie Hammer, and what's her face? beautiful young lady who's an amazing actress. I believe she was an Ex Machina, but awesome. She was also in the Something Girl. She's awesome. Can't remember her name. That's awful. A something begins with an A. But I don't know. I was watching the trailer on this and I was like, it's more like, I don't know. Just feels like just another regurgitation of Lock, Stock, or Snatch, in my opinion. I don't know. It's like, I don't know if I want more of that. It was cool at the time. And I don't know. I think those are the movies, Lock, Stock, and Snatch are two of the movies that I say I like, but it's like, I've never gone back and rewatched them, and if they're on, I'm not exactly like, I'm just not into it. Like I am some other movies that I can watch over and over again. So I keep saying that they're like Lock, Stock, and Snatch are like two of my favorite movies. And it's just like, you gotta stop lying to yourself. You gotta stop lying to the public. I mean, it's hard to go wrong with this cast though. McConaughey, Hunnam, Farrell. It just felt very hoity-toity, like British, pretentious, like just blah. Like, okay. I don't know. You're trying to be cool and trying to be funny. Like Hugh Grant is in it. It's kind of funny, but at the same time, I just didn't really hit with me. Didn't really click. And it doesn't take much for a trailer to click with me. We all know that. I've proven that in the past. So, maybe there's, I don't know. As far as teaser trailer goes, first trailers, new trailers, you're like kind of missed the mark on that one. Didn't hit with me. All right, so I told you in one of my previous episodes that we had bought like the entire Friday the 13th franchise, 8 movies for $13. What a deal. And we watched part 2 on Friday night. And better, I would say slightly better than part 1, even though I think part 1 has better audience ratings and critic ratings. It was very like drawn out. And part 2 starts with one of the most extensive, long recaps of what happened in part 1. We were blown away. Now, if you've tuned into this show, which no one does, so it's okay. But if you've tuned into the show, you know that we are all about recaps because we do a lot of binge watching. With like Stranger Things and shows where you can just binge them all a whole season at once, and you go like an entire year or more without seeing it ever again. You're like, I don't even remember what the hell happened. So we like the recap, and the recaps on Netflix not so great. This recap was 13 to 15 minutes long, I guess depending on the cut. I don't know. So I've read 13 to 15 minutes long, and it really was like walked you through and held your hand and was like, okay, everyone okay? We all good? Let's start the second movie. And it's just like, holy shit. 13 to 15 minutes. I think it's the longest kind of recap in movie history. And a lot of people said this is actually considered to be the best in the series. So we're now months after Alice, the final girl from part 1, beheaded Mrs. Voorhees, Jason's mom. She's kind of still traumatized by the murder. And then we find out that Jason, I don't know if this is true, and this is where it gets a little crazy, that he never drowned and died. And he saw Alice behead Mrs. Voorhees, which if that is the case, which they didn't explicitly say this. So I think the synopsis might be making some assumptions. How dare you? But Jason saw this chick, the final girl, behead his mom. And now he wants revenge and he's not dead. And it's like, I don't know about all that. I like the idea that he did die and he came back to life after Mrs. Voorhees got beheaded, as like somehow that was connected, which somehow makes more sense than a kid watching that happen and then hiding in like, also first, you're a pretty powerful dude, J Bones. Stop the beheading or let the mom know, hey, ma, not dead. So that's a major point of contention for a lot of people. And it's like, I know what I choose to believe. I choose to believe that he is the undead and that he did die and he came back to life to get revenge or avenge his mother's beheading. Decapitation. But this is 5 years later. This movie takes place 5 years later. They're near Camp Crystal Lake, but they're not there. They're at like a nearby lodge. But you know, there's a lot of folklore and legend behind Camp Crystal Lake. So of course, a couple of the counselors, being teenagers and being young, dumb, and full of cum, decide that they're gonna try to explore and figure out what happened, and all chaos ensues. I gotta say, they upped the camp factor. I don't know how you do that from part one, but part two it was campy, and I like campy. I like cheeky, and they had, I mean, it was like, and you know, at the time, I'm sure it did not come off that way as much, but knowing and seeing all the movies and TV shows that have been released that have been inspired by Friday the 13th or Halloween or what have you, and seeing how much they've made fun of it, and then going back and seeing the original, it's like, it's almost like you're watching the parody of it, but it's the original. You're like, you know, like, oh, so-and-so already parodied this. It's like, nah, not spoof, original. This is the inspiration for all that other jazz. But like the nipples on the one chick, I mean, the all women in the movie, it's like bras are out. The movie takes place, it came out in 81, but the setting was supposed to be 1984, and it's like the early 80s. It was like, bras, no thanks. Take a hike, bras. We need our nips to be free, and we need everybody to see your nips. I mean, the one woman, I mean, it was just like, holy macaroni. Like, cut off shirt, exposing the midriff that like barely covered her chest, and shorts. I mean, whoa, dude. Shorts that went all the way up the butt crack. I mean, I'm talking like, no way that can be comfortable. I'm sorry. And of course, that's the same woman who ends up going skinny dipping at night. And I remember turning to my wife, and I mean, I laughed a lot throughout this movie, and that's why, you know, it's so great. But I turned to her and I said, "Hey, so skinny dipping at night?" And she's like, "Absolutely not." Like, and didn't even cross my mind, didn't enter my mind, not on my bucket list, never gonna happen. I was like, all right, gotcha, makes sense. I mean, I've only gone skinny dipping once. You know, it's gonna sound bad, but reserve your judgment. Reserve it. Just take off the white wig and throw away the gavel for 2 seconds. I was a kid. It was my dad, my uncles, my grandfather. We're in this cabin thing. There's like a pool, indoor pool. It's heated, and they're just like, went for skinny dip. It's like a bunch of boys going skinny dipping. Family. I don't know. Is that weird? I guess so. That's probably why I'm weird. I don't know why I told the story, but you know, we're talking skinny dipping here. Trying to keep it relevant. That's what this friggin' show's all about. What struck me is, like, even as the credits rolled, I was like, wow, it's so nuts that we've now gone through 2 parts of the Friday the 13th franchise and we still haven't seen Jason. I had no idea that guy was Jason. And it was. The guy in the pillowcase over his face with the one hole for his one eye, you know, who is played by an actor who's like 6'1", who's, I think he's the shortest of the Jasons. No clue. I was like, okay, these are people like yokels, trying to like, who have become fascinated with the Jason mystique, you know, allure, and have now are turning into copycat killers and are trying to like pretend they're Jason. That's honestly what was going through my head, especially when the sheriff chases after him. So Jason, you know, runs across the street, or the guy runs across the street, and then the sheriff kind of chases him into the woods. He goes to the shanty or the shack. And then that was a weird sequence of shots, because it's like you see a pair of feet and you see another pair of feet, and you're like, oh, there are 2 people because the sheriff, the first shot is the sheriff looking into the room in the doorway, excuse me. And then they cut to two pair of feet, another two pair of feet. And you're like, oh, there are like multiple people in the room. This must be like a Jason cult. And I think other movies have done this, and I wish I could not name them off the top of my head, because then I would look like a friggin' genius. But where it's like there's this iconic character, and then there's a cult or a group that worships this character, and they kind of carry out the same deeds that character would do. And I was like, wow, they're really carrying this whole we're not going to show you Jason. And I was like, that is impressive that you can go 2 movies, even if they are studio movies or what have you, that you can go 2 movies without seeing the guy that we're so used to seeing in the hockey mask with the machete. And you don't get to see that until 3, I think, maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen 3. It blows my mind, and I'm very impressed by it. You can go all part 1, not seeing it, and it turns out to be Mom. And then I was thinking, oh, he went all part 2 without showing Jason? And it turns out that these murders are now being committed by like copycats, a copycat cult. Whoa, boy. That's impressive. It turns out, nope, that is Jason. He just doesn't have the hockey mask. He has the pillowcase. He lives in a van down by the river. No, he lives in a shanty, kind of like Unabomber-esque. And maybe Ted Kaczynski used that as inspiration. I don't know. I'm not going to allegedly, I'll throw allegedly out there. But I didn't figure out until after, like, oh, okay, it was Jason. Cool. Because, I mean, you watch the movie, and towards the end, he's like kind of struggling with people that appear to be the same, like the one camp counselor, the head honcho there, Paul or whatever, the blonde dude. He's like kind of the same size as Jason, and he's like not being overpowered at all. And it just felt like, nah, this can't be Jason. Jason's like this big, strong dude who just like cannot be stopped. And he's getting tackled by this camp counselor. Definitely not Jason. Nope, that was Jason. And he gets stabbed. We do get to see the machete, but he doesn't actually, we don't see him using it. He just like, it's just like, it shows up in the bed randomly. Like he just placed it there for everyone to see, like, hey, remember, you guys, this is going to be a thing. Trust me. And then he gets it. He gets the machete, his own machete, through the chest. I found out that the guy there were multiple people who played Jason in this movie. But one of the guys, the stunt guy, he like, oh man, went through actual physical hurt and injury and hell for this character. Like, in the one fight scene with the final girl, Ginny, I think her name is, he like cut his finger off or hurt his finger, had to go to the hospital. He decided to come back and shoot and finish the scene. Broke his ribs in another scene and in the woods, I think. Might have had a concussion. Like, it's just like, dude, maybe take a breather. Maybe walk away from the franchise. Don't know if it's going to get any better for you. You're not meant for this part. Yeah. And, I mean, we're going to talk about best kills. I don't know. I feel weird talking about best kills. I mean, it's fictional, but still, it's human lives at stake here. The one that got me was, I mean, there's the double impalement, which I guess was it Susan and whatever the guy's name is, the first 2 that we see at the beginning of the film who meet up with Ted. Is it Ted? The big, tall, dorky looking guy who's actually kind of cool. And they're like, they're trying to investigate Camp Crystal Lake, and they come across something that's been mangled, and you think it's the dog. By the way, that woman with the nips and the butt crack goes skinny dipping. She loses her dog for an entire day. Just gone. See ya. And she's just like, I wonder where Marbles is, or whatever the fuck his name is. And it's just like that. That's her tone and attitude the entire time the dog is gone. Marbles, where are you? Oh, where's that gosh darn dog? And then it's like 10 hours later, and she's just like, I wonder where Marbles is. It's like, oh my God, pick up the pet. Like, if you've ever lost a pet, you just want to jump off a bridge. I mean, we lost both cats during a party in Hoboken. Someone left the door open. They were just like, Shazam, I'm out of here. And we, my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, was inconsolable and like was stalking the streets, screaming their names. And it's just like they finally came back. But it was like, it feels like life or death. It feels like you're never going to see that pet again. I came, it was the weekend that I got in a friggin' car accident and then went to my 20th year high school reunion. And so I was in a haze coming back, and that Monday morning or whatever, going back to work, just left the front door open. Because why? Because the car door was open. So the car door was open. I go to close the car door, forget that the sliding glass door, forgot to close that. I went to close one open door that was open all night long, just saying, "Hey, carjackers, want an easy score?" Somehow it's remained in our driveway, and closed that and left the sliding glass door open. And the cats were like, "Oh, it's party time. Like, we're free. Call everybody. We're having a party." Back alley. This woman, this actress, it's like, when did you get this dog? Even if you got that dog the day of, dude, you got to feel for it. You've already had an emotional connection with it to buy it or adopt it or whatever you did to acquire it. Like, something connected with you and that dog to get it. This is not like you didn't get it for the Instagram likes. It's not an accessory for your photos. Like, you're not getting it for clout. You got this dog because you had some kind of relationship with it, an emotional connection. You got it. You bonded with it. And now you're just walking around. You go 10 hours in between looking for it, which is bananas. And when you do look for it, you're just like marbles. Oh boy. So, but in terms of like craziest kills, best kills, if you want to say best, I don't know, weirdest, most memorable kills, even that sounds weird. But so the double impalement is the one that almost could have got this like an X rating or something like that. I guess impalement is pretty, like the MPAA, that's really on their shit list. It's like impalement. So yeah, the double impalement with the couple that we see at the beginning. And apparently there was actually a sex scene with like full on frontal nudity. And like they later found out the actress in that scene underage. It's like, what are we not like? I feel like the 80s is when regulation started to happen. It's like so much bad shit was happening on a wide scale that they were like, you know what? Maybe we should be a little more thorough about this whole process. That was also the same time, I believe, that Tracy Lords was like 16 and shooting porn. It's just like, yay, dude. We need someone with accountability who knows due diligence to get involved in this process, because we're getting murdered out here by these underage chicks. So yeah, they didn't show that double impalement. You just saw the spear coming through the bottom of the bed. But the most insane kill, and I hate that I keep using all these weird adjectives, but the one that stuck out to me was the dude in the wheelchair. The dude in the wheelchair, I believe he rolls out. Maybe he hears a noise. He comes out, he rolls out, and I think he comes down maybe somewhere, anywhere, wherever he is. Oh, he's on the porch, I think. I think he's on the porch. And he gets, it is the machete. Yep. Okay. Whatever, dude. He gets a machete right in the face, just across the face like that. And I remember seeing, I remember the first time I saw him on screen, I was like, he's in a wheelchair. Please don't die, dude. Please don't die. Please don't die. Like, that would be awesome. And I know the odds are against you. The probability is that everybody in this movie is getting hacked to death, except one final girl. I get it. You're not a girl. You're a good looking dude. Kind of looks like Daniel Jones. Not gonna lie, looks like Danny Dimes. Also looks like the guy from Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, who was also in Real Big Fish and a couple other movies. Can't remember his name. Billy Crudup. Can't believe I just remembered it. So he looks like that. So good looking dude. And this one chick is just like, the one woman is just like all up in his grill. Like, I'm going to bone you. I don't care if your lower parts work or not. I'm boning you. And he's like, turns out in real life, he's gay. Which is cool. But so this murder, the whole time I'm like, don't murder this guy. Like, come on. And it turns out I think he had a motorcycle accident or something. I'm like, well, you know, motorcycles are dangerous. So that's all I'll say. I'm never going to be on a motorcycle. I really hope I never end up on one. So this guy's on the porch. He's rolling around in his wheelchair and he's like, hello, blah, blah. And he just gets, boom, machete to the face. He rolls back off the porch, down the hill, down a very large flight of stairs, outdoors. I mean, the whole, and the camera, I thought I was watching like Scary Movie or Scary Movie 2, like just one of those horrible spoof movies that are just like so ridiculous and over the top and absurd. You're like, oh, I mean, like, I guess this is funny when you're 8 or like, you know, when you haven't hit puberty yet, but like seems excessive. That's what that seemed like. It was like machete to the face. It rolls backwards and just goes bum 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 bum, rolled down backwards down a whole flight of stairs. The tallest, longest flight of stairs. I mean, comparable to like when you walk up to like a monk temple or like a Shaolin temple, you know, up in the mountains in the Himalayas, and you have to like walk up just like an infinite amount of stairs. That's what it seemed like. And he was rolling down it backwards the whole time with a cleaver in his face or machete in his face. Like, so absurd. Oh, what I, you know, and who knows where this movie goes, but like, the final girl who survives part 1, Alice, apparently because of that movie, part 1, she had like a crazy, insane stalker who broke into her apartment, her house or something like that, and like was in her bedroom or bathroom or something like that. Very scary stuff. And she just completely stopped acting because of it. She's like, no, this whole acting thing, I didn't sign up for stalkers. I'm out. And that's insane. What happens if there's no stalker? Does she go on and she is pretty much the equivalent of Jamie Lee Curtis in Halloween? Like, she's just the one common thread surviving through it all. You know, Scream, is she the whatever her name is in Scream? You know, the one woman who just like, you know, keeps surviving through all this as all her friends and family are murdered. And she couldn't do it. She did some voice acting and she was in part 2, but apparently, you know, she was like, they brought her in after they had finished filming the movie. And she's like, okay, what am I doing? And they're like, well, you're getting killed. You know, thanks so much for surviving part 1. You are toast in part 2. Which, you know, her death, good God, ice pick to the temple. And apparently, I love trivia. I looked this up. The first take, it didn't retract. It's a retractable ice pick, and it didn't retract the first time. It's like, and she's like, I don't know how to do math anymore. I mean, yeah, stalker, and then you almost accidentally get murdered in a horror movie for real. I'd probably like take a break. Probably be like, no longer acting. Sorry. And I think the craziest part about part 2, I had another night terror. This time I had CBD oil and I used it. And it doesn't make sense how I keep having night terrors. I'm 2 for 2 on night terrors after Friday the 13th movies. I don't get it because I don't feel scared at all. There's like, you know, 1 or 2 jump scares where you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming. But not like, it's not like scarring me for life. And yet, night terrors. These movies are so campy. I laugh at most or some of the deaths. Like, oh, man. Night terror. It wasn't as bad the first one. I mean, it wasn't incapacitated the next day, but something about Jason that just, I can't believe we still haven't seen the hockey mask though. Excited about part 3. I doubt we'll watch it because I think, my wife was like, so this is what happens every time. Like they're just at a camp and Jason just comes and murders them all. I'm like, yeah, I pretty much nailed it. I don't think there's not a whole lot of like geopolitical strategy going on here. It's, it's a killer who is bitter person, just trying to take out his pain on others. He just went to therapy, so I might have to do part 3 on my own. Can't wait to have another night terror. Also got to watch Time Trap on Netflix, which I think is an underrated movie. I guess it came out last year, maybe the year before. And just started trending on Netflix now, maybe because it just went on Netflix. I don't know. It's actually from Paladin Films, which is the film studio that my uncle worked for. May he rest in peace. He unfortunately passed away after a very brief, quick, severe battle with bone cancer. But yeah, this is a film from his company. Don't mean to get Debbie Downer on you, but it's quality work. I suggest you check it out. The synopsis or logline is a professor enters a cave and goes missing. Some of his students come looking for him and get trapped in the cave as well. Well, I mean, the title of the movie should give it away, but I feel like this could possibly be remade or rebooted down the line with maybe a more prominent cast, with maybe better special effects, I mean, it's still an entertaining movie, but like, all right, spoilers. All right, I can't talk about movies without telling you about the spoilers. It's an amazing premise. You find out, so fast forward if you don't want to hear this, but you find out that you enter this cave and time slows down to almost a halt in the cave. And then outside the cave, time goes by really fast. So it's like you're trapped in time in this cave. I mean, maybe you could figure it out from the title of the movie. I mean, come on, you're smart. So, you go in the cave for like 5 seconds and like 5 years go by. That's kind of the ratio we're looking at. And so this professor, he wanted to go in for secret reasons. He wasn't telling anyone. And you come to find out that his parents went into the cave because they wanted to find someone, or they knew about this fountain of youth that could potentially help their daughter, the professor's sister, get better. Because I think she had some kind of threatening disease or cancer, which is crazy now that I think about it, because my Uncle Mark had an illness. Anyway, so they go in for the Fountain of Youth because the fountain has properties that can help heal the daughter. And so they got trapped with the daughter, parents of the daughter. So the professor is now going to go in and try and pull them out, extract them, and not knowing that this kind of time thing happens. And he goes in. And so time, like for like not that long. And then his students, he tells the students he's going in there. He's not telling them why. He's like, don't come with me. I'm going alone. And they're like, nah, F that, son. We're going to get together. It's going to be me, my fellow student who's studying with me, my ex-girlfriend, her sister, and then this random kid named Furby. And you're just like, how is this? Why do they have this kid Furby? Like, what's his deal? And is this going to be it just seemed like a very random assortment of people. And they even, and this is why I think the movie is better than expected. It's not just like some cheesy sci-fi flick, that they acknowledge like, okay, what is this? The Goonies? And it's like, yeah, like that was the first thing that popped in my head. Cause that kid looks like the pudgy kid from Goonies who does the truffle shuffle or whatever it's called. So, I mean, the two women that they got, the ex-girlfriend and the fellow student, it's just like, what is happening here? Like, why? I mean, there's one part where it's like, all right, I'm now going to take off this plaid button down. I'm going to have a white tank top underneath and I'm going to go through water. And it's like, I know what you're doing. I see you. I see right through you, producers. I got you. But, man, they also kind of like at the end, they kind of handled everything a little too well. It's like, dude, like we are very far in the future. And like everyone we know or has ever known is completely way gone, not even remembered in any kind of documentation that survived what's happening. And like, I guess you're with aliens now. And they're all just like, it's like a sitcom ending. It's like freeze frame on them laughing. Like, it's like, what? Things are, I mean, I know they said, well, we're a group, we're a team, we're a family. We're going to get this through this together. And, you know, that's all well and good. But at the same time, wouldn't you be scared out of your mind? Where are you going? And they're like, oh, and we're pretty famous. And it's like, well, yeah, you're going to be poked and prodded by aliens for the rest of your life. I don't know. So very happy ending. The wife didn't like it at all. She was just like, this is stupid. This is cheesy. This is ridiculous. This is absurd. I was just like, it's kind of right up my alley. I kind of love it. I mean, but you know, you could tell like it didn't have the budget, which it did well. I mean, you know, kudos for the budget it had for being able to come off and pull off a quality project. But like the cavemen come on screen, you're like, that's the guy in a wig. I mean, it's a wig. It's a wig right there. You know, and that's makeup. The brow, that's makeup. You know, it's just, there's little things here and there that kind of throw you off. But like, all in all, I think it's worth watching. So in between those two movies, we had to cleanse the palate a little bit, and we watched Between Two Ferns, the movie with Zach Galifianakis. And I remember on a previous episode, I was saying like, how the hell do they turn this into a movie? And like it's gonna feel forced, and like it just doesn't seem like I was very doubtful about how they're gonna pull it off, and they pulled it off. I mean, it's like, you know, they basically know, hey, it's a comedy. We know why you're tuning in. You're tuning in for the interviews with the celebrities, and we'll give you some other stuff in between. But like, does the reasoning for this movie doesn't have to be like something structurally sound. It just needs to be somewhat funny. And so it's Will Ferrell who plays like he constantly is wearing like cowboy Western outfits, and he's like severely addicted to cocaine. And he's like, yeah, I discovered this guy, Zach Galifianakis, and they pretend like Zach Galifianakis. So, wow. Okay. Zach Galifianakis is like not a celebrity. You know, they just say, oh, you know, I tuned in. Someone forwarded me a clip from this local public access station in North Carolina, small town, North Carolina. And I loved him because he's fat and stupid. And then it's like he's been using his clips on funnyordie.com. And, you know, every movie has to have the stakes, you know, we need the stakes because otherwise, if there are no stakes, then no one's going to keep watching, which, okay. But they play with that trope, and they're like, you need to do 10 interviews, high quality interviews with top celebrities and deliver the tapes by 9 a.m. Monday. And it's like, all right, you know, and if you do that, I'll give you your big sweet movie, your TV late night talk show on real TV. Because there's like this whole thing about TV versus internet. And it's Zach's dream. So, of course, he wants to do it. And, I mean, the interviews, oh, my God. It's written, directed by Scott Aukerman, who you probably know from the IFC show, which, Comedy Bang Bang. Wow. You know what? The brain is working today, sort of. Comedy Bang Bang, which I didn't watch all the episodes of Comedy Bang Bang, but if you watch it, you're like, oh, this is like Between Two Ferns, and it's because it's Scott Aukerman. Same kind of same mind, same great mind. Actually, I didn't meet Scott Aukerman or Zach Galifianakis, but I was in the same room as them, so I think that's kind of cool. When I was working at Daily Motion, the French YouTube, we put together with some producers, a charity event that that was broadcast or live streamed from 4 different locations: New York, LA, Australia, London, Sydney, Australia, London, England. And these producers were able to corral like all of this top talent from YouTube and other platforms, and but also IFC talent like Scott Ackerman and Zach Galifianakis. And you know, it's they say never meet your heroes, and I kind of get it, because it's like you, and people say this about me too. It's like you know them from their work on camera, and so you think that they're like that in real life off camera, and it's like, actually, no. You know, on camera, you got to be on. You know, I know that's hard to believe because you're watching me and you're like, this guy sucks. And he must suck in real life. And it's like, yeah, it's true. But like, you know, Zach Galifianakis is not like cracking jokes left and right in person. He's just like, can I have a water? And you're like, huh? Okay. Why? Why do you want a water? What? What do you want? And it's like, no, he just wants a water. Get him a fucking water. Yeah, but I thought it was a very exceptional work. Stars, I mean, lots of cameos: John Hamm, Peter Dinklage, Tessa Thompson, who I'm now going to have trouble saying her name because they do a play on her first name, and they call her Tesla Thompson. So I'm not going to, now I'm catching myself saying Tesla Thompson. Matt McConaughey, Matt. And Dave Letterman, John Legend, which that was a weird kind of subplot with Chrissy Teigen. I was like, okay, all right. Aquafina and Paul Rudd, which you got to stick around to the end. The end has like the best, has a bunch of like outtakes and bloopers, and you can see like that's when you get to kind of see a hint of the real Zach Galifianakis, and he feels bad saying a lot of the shit to the celebrities, like these questions. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was really well done. And there were some like a couple emotional moments here and there that kind of tug at the heartstrings a little bit. So yeah, it's a recommend for me. Obviously, a nice, clean, good watch. All right, so that's movies. Let's talk TV. We had the Stranger Things 4 promo hit the interwebs, which I don't know. I mean, it's not really news, but I guess, you know, you gotta write about it. It was just like a very well produced 30-second to a minute clip. It shows the Stranger Things title treatment. The neon lights kind of come on, and it's like coming towards you, and then all of a sudden you're like in the Upside Down, and like the vegetation like grows over the Stranger Things title treatment. You either hear like the Demogorgon or the Mind Flayer, like that little predator sound that they make. And then it's just like cut to black, and then it's like, we're not in Hawkins anymore, timed with like bells going off, and you're like, hell yeah, dude. And it's like, yeah, Stranger Things 4 is officially going to happen on Netflix. And it's like, it was like less than 0% doubt that was going to happen. Like, I can't believe that that's the announcement. Like, duh. You're not going to end Stranger Things 3 the way you did and then not have Stranger Things 4. I mean, but I love that we're not in Hawkins anymore. I mean, yes, dude. Upside down that shit to death. I want a nose transplant. I feel like I am constantly have like hairs. Like, you know how the vegetation grows over the Stranger Things title treatment? I feel like there are just hairs overtaking my nose. So just like conquering my nose. The hairs are like coming out, peeking out, and being like, hey. I'm just trying to like push them back in. So disgusting, so gross. Just like, and they say it's because people are thinking about you. Oh yeah, really? No one thinks about me. God damn it. But yeah, the fact that it's going to be in the Upside Down, I mean, it's huge. I'm very excited because we've always kind of played around with the Upside Down. We get like little snippets here and there in the previous 3 seasons. I want full on whole season 4 in the Upside Down. I mean, I think that would be amazing. See some real cool stuff. Oh man, if they ever did a crossover, and I know this has been said to death, but I don't care because I love it. If there's a crossover with Get Out, and it's like the sunken place is also like you can get to the sunken place from the Upside Down. Or maybe the upside down turned into the sunken place. I don't know. I have my mind is a cesspool. So yeah, I'm sure they'll come out in the next 5 years. I mean, it's not. There's no way I see it coming out in 2020. I don't think. So we're probably looking at like summer 21. I guess they could maybe think about doing it in like Halloween 2020. That'd be cool. Nose again, touching that nose. If I had any fans whatsoever and they were like actually like into this show, which is not happening, but they would do a compilation of me like touching my nose or sniffing or picking my nose. Yeah, whole nose comp. Fan made nose comp. Subscribe now. But I did get to catch up on season 13 of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, finally. And that's how, it only took me a day. That's how clean a watch it is on Hulu. Just like press play, sit back and enjoy. Good season overall. A lot of people, I think, heading into that season were thinking, what the hell are they going to do without Dennis? And we got a glimpse in the first episode. It was like, okay, Mindy Kaling is part of the crew now. And like, she's coming up with these kind of cool schemes, but no offense to Mindy Kaling. It just did not work. I mean, it just did not work. And you can see like they really not really need Dennis, but they can't go an entire season without him. I mean, that's pretty evident. I mean, there are definitely some episodes where he's not in it at all. And you're like, this works, but I don't know if this works over the entire season. So it's like, thank God they did not continue with Mindy Kaling. No offense, Mindy Kaling. You're a very talented, attractive young woman who's smart and all that jazz. I am not. But when the lifelike sex doll of Dennis, and then they cut to the sex doll and it is Dennis, like impersonating the sex doll, I was like, okay, now we're cooking with gas. And that's when everything picked up. I perked up, and we're back in the groove. We're back in the New York groove, in your face, Philadelphia. Episode 2 is the escape room one, which escape rooms just like blew up over the past 2 years, and I still have not been in one. And now I'm thinking, it's not pointless to go in one. Like, my wife will never want to do it because, I think she originally wanted to do a lot more teammate type stuff, where it's like, we should cook together as a team, and we should do this as a team. And then she realized that like, maybe not. Maybe we don't do that because we're like, you got your way and I'm my way. And it's like, we're a good couple, just not a good team. And like the escape room, especially when it comes to like competition, even though we're on the same side, I guess if we're on opposite sides, it's like, oh boy, no bueno. But like an escape room situation where it's like, there's pressure, and, I can only imagine now what the fallout would have been from the escape room situation. But I did like the scene where they're all around the table, and it's like the men, and they're just like, they're smoking pipes and they're drinking brandy, and they're coming up with all these elaborate like policies and plans, and like a organization where it's like, we went from the primal world, we're just going to shatter shit, and show the evolution of like, we're cavemen, we're going to shatter and break everything in physical violence, to it's us politicizing and organizing, being more civilized and sophisticated, but yet they still have not made any progress. And this one, the third episode, The Gang Beats Boggs Ladies Reboot, I think it was the worst rated episode other than Charlie's Home Alone and Gang Wins the Big Game. I don't understand why. I mean, I do understand why, but why it's so low rated. And I think that's just because, and I don't know, I'm probably like, committing harakashu, where it's like the samurai warrior sticks the saber in his gut and twists, and like, I'm committing suicide by saying this, but like, you got to think that it's just, I don't know, I hate saying PC culture, whatever. I mean, it's a commentary on like, Ocean's fucking 8, dude. Why are we doing Ocean's 8? Why are you doing a female Ghostbusters, all female Ghostbusters? What you need to be doing is original franchises that are female led and female driven, like Birds of Prey. I mean, that's not like, oh, Harley Quinn was played by a dude and now it's going to be played by a woman. Sometimes that twist works. Like, what women want, what men want. All right. But like, I don't know. I know I'm going to catch shit for it, but it's like, you can do whatever you want. I don't care. Godspeed. At the same time, just do something original and unique to you. That's your story. Don't try and do like, and I think that's what what the hell is her name? Ugh. Nardi, Artemis. Oh, and now I have an eyelash in my eye. Wow. Great. Feels like there's a broken contact in my eye. And now I'm blind. Awesome. That's God saying, hey, maybe you want to, that's God, who's a woman, poking me in the eye and saying, don't talk shit about women. But I'm not talking shit about women. I'm saying, let's do better. And when I say let's, like, you do better. But I want to say let's because I believe in you. I don't know. Yeah, but Artemis is saying, like, let's not do what they did. Let's do our own take on it. Let's do our own version of it. That feels like our own as opposed to just, I don't know, redoing fucking Ocean's 11. I don't know. So I kind of like, I found that funny. I thought it was cool that they took that on, but a lot of people apparently didn't. 6.8 out of 10. Yikes. I found this to be one of the funnier episodes when it's, and I almost want to go back and watch the original Wade Boggs episode. I just like when characters drink and then accurately portray drunk, because there's so many times in movies and TV shows where it's like, we're wasted. And now we're going to have a conversation like this. That's emotional and that's very calm. And it's just like, no, slur your words, lose your balance a little bit. It's like act drunk. And I know there's, it's a dangerous slippery slope, because like if you've ever been sober in a bar and everyone around you is drunk, you're like, this blows. Why am I going to pay to watch something like that? It's like, all right, I get you, but you got to give me something. And all the ladies in this episode were just dynamite. So, I mean, I don't know, spinoff. And I know I just shit on it, but maybe like Always Sunny in Bucks County. I don't know, neighboring adjacent, like all female type Always Sunny with one guy that they always pick on. Just blew a snot rocket. That's gross. Okay. Episode 4, Time's Up. It's, and you got to address it. Frank was so good in this episode with the bathrobe that opens. Just like, his body is just phenomenal. Which one was the, okay. So, Frank was great in this one. And then of course, Dee just being like, it's her time and just being like, time's up, boom, time's up, boom. And then Dennis, of course, being the guy that's like finessing, the two instructors or whoever the whole time. And then being like, time's up. And then you hear the bell. It's like so good. And then of course you find out that he was behind it the whole time. And I just like, he made the shit bar list. That was a good episode. I think that was one of the highest rated episodes, 9.3 out of 10. Yeah. So that might've been the best rated episode. I don't know if I would say it was the best. Definitely top 3 for me. The gang gets new wheels, episode 5. This is where, Dennis is like, hey, remember my Range Rover? And they're like, yeah, it's right where you parked it. And then they go and it's all burnt out. And he's like, oh, and he has like a crisis because that was like such a huge part of his identity, being a Range Rover owner. And then of course he starts driving a Prius and he becomes like this dweeb who gets into like fantasy baseball. And Charlie and Mac had to deal with bicycle bullies, which this one was, Yeah, I don't know. It got 9.1 out of 10, which is crazy. I mean, D gets in line with the cool rich housewives, and I guess that was kind of cool and sticks it to Dennis a little bit, but I don't know. I wouldn't put it that high. Gang solves the bathroom problem, episode 6. I like this one. I think this one, along with Time's Up, and I mean the Boggs one. I don't know. I think that those are probably the top 3. But so, and I love that Jimmy Buffett is in town, and the gang is going to the concert, and they all keep singing that one song. If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, and Dennis is like, nope, not Jimmy Buffett. Rupert Holmes. That's Rupert Holmes who sings that, and it's like, I didn't know that. But yeah, like Charlie's only transgender when he poops. Like that's just, I mean, you can't get any better than that. Like, and then, you know, Mac proposing that like we've been so mean to minorities that they should get their own bathroom. So good. I mean, that could be, I like that one a lot. That might be my number 1, if not for Time's Up. Clip show. Now, when this first started, it's like anytime that you know that it's a clip show and you're like, oh, come on, how lazy do you have to be? And then they take it into that kind of Inception-esque angle. I mean, chef's kiss, dude. That was so good. So good. There's 2 Charlies. And this is where, so the clip show, it could have like gone down a very bad path, and I think they played on that, you know, obviously to masterfully played on that, and you know, played us in the process. Charlie's Home Alone, episode 8. So this was like kind of a two-parter, where we see the weekend of Super Bowl 52, Pats versus Eagles from Charlie's perspective. Where he just gets left behind, and the rest of the crew goes to watch the game in Houston or Minnesota. Did they drive there from Philly? Oh, I don't know. I forget where it was. I guess Minnesota. Yeah. So, or the gang thinks that Charlie gets on the bus as Green Man, but it turns out it was someone else. And so he's home alone. He's home alone in the bar, and Patty's to defend himself, and gets caught up in, and you're thinking, is this going to be like a beat for beat reenactment of Home Alone? I hope not. And they did to a certain extent, but then it goes off the rails, of course, and much to my delight. The thing that gets stuck in my head though, is like, okay, I know that's Jason Kelce, but who's the other Eagle? So, you know, has the cutouts of the 2 Eagles, and one's Jason Kelce, who's the center of the Eagles. And then they have like number 94. It's like long blonde hair. And you're like, the guy kind of looks like a football player, but Jason Kelce, like, is that Jason Kelce? Because that might not be a football player. You're looking at them like, what's going on here? Like, how did you get one real football player and then you got a fake one? It's like very interesting to me. But it all plays on our superstitions as fans, right? So it's like, if I do this, they do well. If I sit here, they don't do well. If I stand up, they do well. If I wear this hat forwards, they don't do well. If they wear it backwards, they do well. And so I'm right there with you. I'm like, and one of the funniest parts is like, you're not even an Eagles fan, you're a Cowboys fan, dude. Charlie to Mac saying like, you're a Cowboys fan, you're not an Eagles fan. He goes, no, I'm a Tony Romo fan. Go Birds, go Birds. It's like, that's such a Mac thing to do. Grow up a Cowboys fan and then say he was a Tony Romo fan. And it's also like, it's funny because you know, all right. I mean, I'm just going to say it because it happened. It's factual. It's history. A lot of like Giants fans, Eagles fans, Redskins fans, to insult Tony Romo would call him Tony Homo. I mean, I didn't participate in it. It's a thing that happened. I heard it. I experienced it. There were Tony Homo, Tony Homo. And it's like, you know, this was 05 to, I don't know. Not excusing it at all. Just saying it happened. I was there, experienced it. So it's funny that he would say he's a Tony Romo fan and now he's openly gay. So it's like, it makes sense that they would, it's so perfect that they would say Tony Romo. Tony Romo is not gay. I just want to put that out there. It's also funny because homo is, why is homo short for gay? It's like Homo sapien is just us people. So it's, I never got on board the homo train. So that's part one. Part two is Gang Wins the Big Game. Part two. This is from the gang's perspective. This is not Charlie. This is from Mac, Frank, D. I don't think Dennis was there, was he? I guess not. But they have the military guy and the jorts. I forgot his name, but they have like what's his face that hooked up with D that like left his wife and kids for D. And then they have, and I love that they brought back the flight attendant from the Boggs episode. They bring him back for the Super Bowl and they still don't remember him. I mean, that's like, it's the little things that make me appreciate Always Sunny so much. And that's why it's like the number one comedy on TV. There, I said it. Frank with the kidney stone. Perfect. And then of course the waitress being a Pats fan, also perfect. Cricket, getting on board, dressed as Green Man. So Cricket, turns out Green Man was Cricket. And so he gets to hang out. But yeah, I love that the superstition comes back into play. Like, damn it. Like, I'm always in the bathroom when the Eagles score and I only get to watch the Patriots score. And then it's like, it dawns on Mac. Oh, so it's like, we got to get that kidney stone out. Oh, so good. And then, of course, episode 10, final episode of season 13, Mac finds his pride. So I guess what I haven't really mentioned so far that you're kind of like, why are you not addressing this? But like Mac is shredded in this season. Just unbelievably just shredded. 0% body fat. And I remember listening to Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard, and he had Mac on as a guest, and he was talking about like, how'd you do this? And he's like, you have to like really, and you're kind of lean in, as we always do, to find out the secret. What's the secret behind this body transformation? And it's like, it's not eating what you like, eating what you don't like on a consistent basis. No fat, no cheat days, nothing. And then you have to work out like a maniac. I mean, that's it. And you can't drink and you can't smoke. And it's like, you have to do all the things that you fucking hate. And that's how you look that good. So that's how Mac did it. And he was like, yeah, it sucks. It's the worst. And, but his ability to transform his body, and like, you think about how fat he was in that one season with the rum ham, until now where he's shredded. And then of course now the ongoing joke throughout the season is like, any opportunity he has to take off his shirt, to pop his shirt off, he's going to do it. He does it. And the funniest part is like, no one cares. They're like, okay, yeah. And it's like when he was fat, they just lay into him nonstop. And then like he gets shredded and it's like, they don't even acknowledge it. It's so perfect. This one, the season finale, he finds his pride. So I guess Dennis wasn't really in a lot of these episodes. He wasn't in Pride, really. He wasn't in the Win the Big Game, I don't think. But so this is like basically Mac trying to come out to his father who's in prison. And his father's like, initially thinks that Mac is knocked up a girl. And so Mac tries to knock up a girl. Like he just is just banging chicks to like try and knock up a woman so that he didn't lie to his dad. It's like the extremes they go to. I love how I've had a cough for 3 fucking months, dude. What is going on with my throat? Good God. So, of course, the most memorable part of this episode is where he's in prison on stage and he's like, I'm sorry, but what was it? Like Kenny Chesney is not going to be able to make it today. And he's like, I was trying to think of the best way to tell you about this, Dad. So here it goes. And the dad just like gets up and leaves immediately. He puts on this amazing performance without a shirt on with some dancer, random dancer, and they do like a whole routine for like 5-10 minutes. And it's like there's like rain, there's like water, and it's just like this beautiful thing. And even Frank is like tearing up, and it's just like, and that's how the end of the season. It's like, all right. So I think he's like full on, proud about his and then Frank's like, I get it now. And it's like, yes, I get it now too. And so I recap season 13 so we can get up to speed and tell you that I saw the first episode from season 14. And this will be an ongoing thing. I'm going to try and keep up with it. The gang gets romantic. So this one played with kind of romantic tropes and like all the pitfalls of Airbnb, basically. I've only had one experience with Airbnb, and it was awful. It was in Philadelphia. We tried to take out Cassie's sister because I guess she just turned 21 or was going to turn 20 or something like that. But we took her out in Philly, and we got an Airbnb. And so my wife, God bless her, I love her a lot. She works in due diligence, but there's some things she just isn't diligent about. And this was an instance like Airbnb. I think you can either rent the entire unit or you can rent a room. And so I think she thought when she rented that she was renting the entire apartment. And it turns out we were just renting a room. And it also turns out the owner or whoever was renting out the room was going to be there the whole time. So it got a little intimate with the, we didn't know what to do. Like and you get to the room and the room is like a shoebox and you're like, all three of us are staying in here and like, we're not allowed to go anywhere else in this apartment. Like that's crazy. And granted, we weren't going to be there that long or, we're going to be out exploring Philadelphia or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, we went downstairs because I think we were allowed downstairs, but it's like, we weren't allowed in the downstairs kitchen or we couldn't use the fridge or something like that because the woman we woke up to her screaming incoherently on the phone to someone about us. We're like, okay, I guess that's our cue. Peace out. But yeah, I don't recommend Airbnb. I haven't yet to have a good experience. I know it's only one experience, but like it was pretty bad. Of course, that being said, I would love to like, bucket list goals of mine. # goals is like just somehow scratch together enough dough to buy like a huge, I get this newsletter from Uncrate or whatever it is. And they show these mansions, these palaces that are like $6 million and just gorgeous. Like I'd love, never going to happen, but I would love to buy this place. But at the same time, it's like, I'd also just like to turn it into an Airbnb hotel almost and just like rent out most of it. And you recoup your money on buying it in like a year. And then you kick them out and you're like, all right, paid off. Let's do this. But I mean, the delusion that goes on inside this dome is outrageous. Anyway, the gang gets romantic. It's got an 8.5 out of 10. Not a whole lot of ratings, but Matt concocts a scheme to attract single women to rent Dennis's bedroom while Frank and Charlie make similar plans to draw on young European co-eds. And of course, things go wrong, awry. And, Frank and Charlie, the people that they get responding to them are Alexei and Nikki. So they're like, oh, sexy. And it turns out to be like two dudes. It's pretty funny. And the two dudes are like mirror images of Frank and Charlie to a certain extent, which is great. And of course, the person responds to Mac's ad, who, because Dennis wants to get in on this and seduce the woman that is going to rent his bedroom. He's going to act like he's renting the same room and like maybe there's something we can work out. And it's like, they keep, I remember now, they keep talking about the meet cute, which is huge in rom-coms, romantic comedies, where it's like, it's the moment where our male or, one romantic interest meets the other romantic interest. And it's often in a weird situation, but it's also kind of quirky and cute. And it's like, okay, these two, they're going to do it. Um, and so Charlie mishears it as meat cube. And that comes into play later, which I thought was cool. But of course, the woman that responds to Mac's ad is like this woman who's married to this guy. And one of the better parts is they overhear them talking about this person named Terry. And so they know that the couple is fighting over this person named Terry. And Mac and Dennis think, okay, this person is like this, like the wife's lover or like the husband's lover. And it's like causing a rift in their marriage, and they're going to separate, and Dennis is going to swoop in and blah, blah. And Mac is like, oh my God, that's it. I was meant to, this is my meet cute with the husband, which is, you know, I mean, we all take weird paths in the way that we think. But so when Mac is giving his speech to the husband, and the husband's just like, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Dennis on the boombox in the background playing the different songs. And then you find out that Terry is their child who passed, I think, or something like that. And so Dennis is still like playing the songs in the background. So good, dude. Cough some more, you jerk. Oh, man. Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm more excited for episode 2. So episode 1, it's like, it's all right. I like how, it worked, but they had the rom-com ending with Frank and Charlie. Frank and Charlie actually end up like kicking out the two, Alexei and Nikki, and they get these two European women who are very free with their bodies and like are into kinky stuff, and like I guess end up they're actually addicted to heroin or something like that. And they're like, you know what, I miss Alexei and Nikki. And so that's like the rom-com ending is them running to the bus station to catch Alexei and Nikki and having their moment. So, I mean, it hit all the right beats and notes. Just like, is that an all-timer? I don't know. Probably not. But that one scene where Dennis is playing the music and Mac's trying to give a speech. So good. Episode 2, I think, could be better. I think it's called like Thunderball something, and just the title alone is like this is gonna be epic. So I'm looking forward to episode 2. I'll have a review of that next week. Got to watch the premiere of season 23 South Park. This was the Mexican Joker, and I think this is where I don't know. I feel like South Park might. I don't want to say jumping the shark. I don't want to say jump the shark, but I think that sometimes it. Because of the accelerated timelines that they're working on and having to get us show up in 6 days and whatnot, that sometimes it's just, they might just be better off not trying to tap into what the hot topic is of that week or something like that. Does that make sense? I mean, I know they've had a great deal of success with what they, and don't break, if it's not broken, don't fix it, but it might be a little broken. I don't know. I love Tally. I mean, the more Tally, the better. I can't believe that they went so many seasons and episodes without Tally, because I just feel like he's such an epic character. And this Tegrity Farms storyline, it's like, is that coming to an end because people are not buying from him anymore and they're growing their own shit? They're doing some commentary on which I totally agree with. It's like you're creating villains. You're creating people who, not all of them, but like these kids that you're separating from their families and detaining, and not to get political, this is not a political show, but like you can definitely see that perspective. Like we are, watch like Kill Bill Volume 2, dude. When the daughter witnesses Uma Thurman murder her mom, it's like, that's probably going to come back to bite you in the ass at some point. Because that daughter's, that's all she's going to think about is your face doing that to her mom. So it's like, and that's, that's what the guys, Trey and Matt, did. They played on that because they know, that's maybe the best way to relate to us now is through these friggin' superhero comic book movies and TV shows. And so that's why they said you're creating the Mexican Joker, because you're detaining all these kids and you're separating them from their parents, and it's very traumatic. And of course the kids are going to grow up. You're not going to kill the kids. So they're going to grow up and they're going to have these awful memories of you American assholes detaining them and separating them from the families. And in most cases, the parents might die or something like that. So, and that's how you get to create the Joker. And of course, the running gag throughout the episode is like the guys who are in ICE or whatever at the wall or the detention camps, whatever, are like, are we in the flashback? Is this the flashback? I don't want to be in the flashback. Man, this Joker movie, whew, it feels a lot like, not to get off topic, but I mean, I was pretty much done with episode 1 of South Park. It's like, all right, well, I laughed here and there. I love Tally. I guess that makes me a dumbass. So be it. But this Joker movie, fucking A, is feels a lot like The Interview, that movie with Seth Rogen and James Franco. I want to say 2014, where it's like, yeah, the movie basically is they go over to North Korea to interview Kim Jong-un, the first. And, you know, never been done before, I don't think. And so there were some threats from supposedly hackers in North Korea or something to that effect. And that's how I guess that's how the Sony leak happened, where all these emails and private documents from Sony were leaked, and the fallout from that. But that movie was removed from theaters because there was like terrorist threats of, you know, people saying that they were going to blow up theaters that screen the movie. And it's like, oh, okay. It got to me, that's for sure. I know, I'm a big pussy. I don't care. It's like, you know, go to a movie and get blown up. Don't go to a movie. I don't know. Seems like a pretty simple thing to do. And so I'm getting a kind of and so we managed to, I think it drew more interest, you know, unfortunately, ironically, whatever you want to put it, for The Interview, it drew more interest to the movie, more hype to the movie. And it turned out to be an okay movie. I mean, the most memorable part, and I probably said this a million times before, but was, you know, spoiler alert, when they shoot the missile into the chopper carrying Kim Jong-un and Katy Perry's firework comes on. I mean, that's like the only part I remember. That, and like whenever you search on Twitter, like the GIFs, and you search for reactions or whatever, they always have the James Franco where he's interviewing Kim Jong-un. He's like making all the facial expressions. It's like the only two things I remember from The Interview. I rented it on Google Play. Okay. But my point is, the Joker movie feels a lot like that. It feels like it was going that way, where it's like, hey, there are legitimate reports from strong sources, reliable sources, that are saying that there's going to be violence, incel violence at these theaters that are screening the Joker. And so now the audiences are banned from wearing the Joker costume to the movie theater. It's insane how that goes. I mean, because it's a fictional character. I don't know. I think about Star Wars, the Star Wars franchise, and how like Darth Vader goes around murdering people. You know, Kylo Ren goes around murdering people. Yet you can dress up as Darth Vader and Kylo Ren to the cows come home at a movie screening. There's all these different movies that have these characters that are pure evil, that are doing bad shit, and people can dress up like them and go to the movie theater. But the Joker is different for some reason. Incel violence. I mean, it's, you know, I'm not going to say it's not a real thing. I mean, we've seen plenty of instances. And I mean, just look at my review of Mindhunter, just look at the show Mindhunter. I mean, a lot of that could be considered incel violence. It's like these people, these guys who are not getting laid, and it's not by choice. And, you know, they take it out on women, unfortunately. And so that's, I guess, what the Joker movie is encouraging to a certain extent. I mean, I've never seen, this is one of those movies where I can't remember the last movie that had this much buzz around it. I mean, you have like the parents of shooting victims in Aurora, Colorado, you know, wanting warnings on it. You got the military warning their personnel to be on the lookout if they go see this movie, which is nuts. You have Todd Phillips, the director, coming out and saying like, I gave up on comedies because we're now in this woke culture and comedies don't work in woke culture, which, you know, people like to get outraged and be the white knight on Twitter and be like, oh, look at the, yeah, because paging Dr. Faggot is so funny. And it's like, I kind of giggled when that first came out. I know now it's extremely offensive and not as funny, I guess. But it's like, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't like Wedding Crashers or Old School now because of woke culture. And the people who are saying that those movies aren't funny now or were never funny, go fuck yourself. It's like, you know, people are saying that because the marginalized and, you know, minorities didn't have a platform or a voice before. I can see that because they didn't for a very long time. And so, you know, that culture has, I guess, not that woke culture, but those cultures existed. They just didn't have a platform to express their feelings about a lot of what was being put out there. So at the time, we're like, well, why don't you say anything? Well, we didn't, you know, whatever. I'm not going to cancel Todd Phillips, dude. I just don't think that's, you know, the guy has probably tried to make some comedies and hasn't worked or hasn't been able to go his way. Maybe he's, you know, and I'm right there. I'm not going to say I 100% agree with him, but like, you know, you lose your sense of humor to a certain degree, to a certain extent. Just seeing what's going on through your timeline day in and day out, you're like, oh my God, someone else is canceled. And it just feels like watching the news, you know, it's just like all bad news. So you kind of become a little jaded, I guess. And you do lose your sense of humor to a little bit. So, I mean, the guy's probably frustrated. I mean, this movie is probably a result of that. But let's watch the movie first before we react. And it's like, now people are not going to go watch the movie because he made that comment. All right, cool. I don't know. Incel violence, dude. I mean, I'll say this, and I don't know if this is a hot take, but like, just legalize prostitution. I don't know. Maybe that'll help. It's not supposed to be funny. I shouldn't be laughing, but I don't know. Doesn't seem that crazy. Maybe it might help. I don't know. The Joker, man. Oof. That I mean, I really hope it's just way overblown. I mean, I know NYPD is bulking up security at movie theaters. I really, you know, honest to God, I hope nothing happens because that'll be another nail in the coffin for people that want to make a certain type of movie that is provocative. I don't know. I don't know what you do because it's like you don't want to go the complete extreme opposite route where it's like, you know, we're now going to censor the fuck out of everything. And, you know, where does that get you? I don't know, where everything's kind of pristine and clean and I don't know. I just, you know, unbelievable. All right. Well, that's my rant. We did get to finish season 5 of Sopranos. I'll try and keep this really quick. This was a good season. I mean, you know, I know I'm stating the obvious, but like, I would say that this is probably the best season so far, which is nuts, you know, I mean, I can completely understand if someone wanted to give up after season 2. If they're like, why is this the best show in the world? I'm out. And it's like, I get it because there's a lot of, I mean, that's a huge, long setup for what is really paying off now in season 5, and I assume is going to pay off big time in season 6. I think we covered the first half of season 5 in a previous episode, but essentially Steve Buscemi plays Tony Blundetto, Tony's cousin. He gets released, and he's kind of, you know, Steve Buscemi has that kind of vibe and that look to him, which is not his fault, but that looks like, yeah, this dude's up to something. Right? He's giving me these looks, and it's just like, I could not believe that for so long after he's released, Blendetto's like, I'm on the straight and narrow now. I want to be a civilian. I'm studying hard for this test, and I'm going to be a massage therapist. And now Mr. Kim from the dry cleaners or whatever, the laundry service, he's going to help me open this office. And it's like, everything is going right. And you're like, wow, he's actually doing it. He's resisting the temptations of the mafia life, the maid way. And he's actually going to go pursue his dreams, and he's going to do it in the legit way. And he just like throws it all away because he was overworked. I mean, he was definitely overworked. I know that. But like, he just throws it all away just because like Mr. Kim doesn't speak clear English. God, that was, I was like, part of me felt like it didn't feel right. It was like, we didn't really see, it's like, yes, we saw him being overworked. And we saw him really stretching himself thin and burning this candle at both ends and all that. So I get that. But we also didn't see too much of his rage per se. I feel like for that scene to work a little bit better, I mean, it worked. I'm not saying it didn't work, but for it to work a little bit better, I think you would see Buscemi's character, Blendetto, have rage a little bit more. We didn't really see it. We see him like make fun of Tony and Tony flipping out. Soprano. We've seen Soprano flip out multiple times when Blendetto is cracking jokes or whatever. We never see Blendetto freak out, flip out, or anything to that effect. And that's what made this scene so shocking. But it also was like, felt like it came out of nowhere. Does that make sense? Like, it just didn't feel... It's like shocking, but not in the way you're to a certain extent. You're like, oh, come on. Like, really? He's going to lose it and flip out to this extent over the guy not being able to say West Caldwell. And of course that rage comes back to be his death knell later on in the season. When I guess who takes out, Billy and Phil Leotardo take out Angelo. And then he wants revenge on the Leotardos for taking out Angelo. And so he goes and does the hit without being sanctioned by Tony Soprano. And the other part of the season, I mean, there's a lot to digest here. Holy shit. Carmine passed away. Feach, Robert. So the Robert Loggia, like Steve Buscemi, major part of the season, and I completely get his storyline and how it plays into the main storyline. So I get that arc, that plot, that storyline worked big time, awesome. The Feach storyline with Robert Loggia was just like, hey, here's Robert Loggia flipping out for the millionth time. I didn't really. And I think this maybe is a statement or commentary on Tony Soprano himself. And it becomes clearer later on in the season is that Tony has a soft spot for actual family, blood-related members versus non-blood, you know? But the same respect, it's like, oh, I guess because Christopher is Carmela's cousin. Does that make sense? So he's like an in-law type blood-related, right? Maybe I'm wrong there. And that's why Christopher is like so upset because he's like, why, this fucker just gets out of prison and now he's running the casino and earning $5,000 a night. And I've been working my dick off and it's like, I'm not getting anything. And, I'm also his cousin, but I don't think he's his blood related cousin. But Feach, dude, I mean, whatever. But my assumption with the Feach storyline is that it shows, one, that Tony's has a soft spot for blood-related family members over non-blood. The fact that he's so willing to help out Blendetto and get him earning to make up for not being there for him when Blendetto got put away. But Feach is kind of like, okay, you've also been put away for a long time. You're old school. And most bosses would have you whacked, taken out, but instead he sets you up and gets you put away back at the prison. And that's I guess that's the good part of Tony. That's like the part that we admire, is that he can be crafty and smart about eliminating threats in certain respects, but in other respects, he's not smart. Like with his dealings with Johnny Sack, it's like, okay, your cousin Blundetto went and whacked, Billy Leotardo and clipped Phil Leotardo, and now you need to deliver Blundetto to Johnny Sack and the Leotardo, and Leotardo, in order to make up for it, and you're like about to do it, and you're gonna save, because they've already said, like, you bring this guy or we're coming after your family, like not just your mobster family, your little mob crime boss family. No, we're talking about like your loved ones. So you would think that would be enough. And it took what's his face, his old driver, who's like Chris's buddy, to get like beaten to an inch of his life in order for him to kind of to change his mind on that. But it took him so long, and you could see a lot of members of this family were like, yeah, we're loyal, but like you're putting all our lives in danger for this rogue guy, this guy who went rogue. I know he's your cousin, he's blood, but like we're all in jeopardy now, because, and all you need to do is deliver this guy who disobeyed you, didn't listen to you, and went out on his own. So you could start to see like it feels like the walls are closing in on Tony. But the heartbreaker of this entire season. Well, there's one more thing before I get to the heartbreaker. Like Carmela and Tony just get back together. Like, what? You guys had like knockdown, drag them out fights, battles that are just like epic. And, it looks like there's just irreconcilable. I mean, I know they hooked up after the party, that one episode. But like, it's just like, I think you're too far gone. And like the fact that he can say, she's like, yeah, just buy me this plot of land. I'm going to build a house. And then you can move back in, because you said that you're not going to do this anymore. Are we in the same, did you guys is this like Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Like, this is not you guys. These are not your characters. What happened? All of a sudden, in the span of like an episode, you're like, you're tired of fighting. You're no longer, and I understand, we saw what Carmela was going through trying to get just a lawyer or an accountant, that hadn't been contaminated or tainted by Tony. I understand it's an uphill battle, and you're tired of your, yeah. And they did have the scene where she's laying there and she's like, no one will love me because they know of my past and they judge me based on it. Like the teacher or advisor that is at AJ's school, he's like, you're just boning me to get what you want. So I understand that, and I can understand it's an uphill battle, but to just get back with him because he's like, yeah, I promise. And I'm buying you this. It's like, isn't this just like you're falling back into old habits again? You wanted to move on with your life, and now you're just back to square one. I mean, AJ said it best when they're at the table at dinner and they're all back together, and he's like, this is fucking weird. It's like, yeah, it does feel weird because it blew up so big. It was like a nuclear bomb explosion. And now we're all sitting here like no wounds or anything. So I don't know how I feel about that. And like, why are you buying a plot of land with a view? There is no view. I didn't see any view. It's just a bunch of fucking trees. $600,000. That's another thing. Tony Soprano is saying like, oh, I'm going through divorce and I've got so many expenses and I got to tighten the belt. And yet he's staying at the fucking plaza, which has got to be through the butt outrageous expenses on a nightly basis in New York. When you're a New Jersey crime boss, like that doesn't make any sense. You're like staying in enemy and what is essentially enemy territory because of what's going on with Blundetto and Leotardo and Little Carmine and Johnny Sack. Why would you opt to stay in the city when you just stay in a, like, where you're safe in your own territory? And this is especially after the fact that he just watched that news broadcast about like all the port of Newark, or that the ports are like unguarded and not monitored, and like terrorists are sneaking into the country through these containers. So you're going to go from that extreme where you're like extremely fearful about attacks or what's going to happen to oh, I'm just going to sleep at the plaza, when it's very possible that people are going to come after me because I refuse to get my cousin and present my cousin, turn my cousin over. I mean, yeah, I mean, the first episode is called The Two Tonys, and I guess you see a lot of that in this season. There's like this very scared, spiteful, triggered, angry, mean Tony. And then there's just like very calm, sedated family man Tony. And you're like, I cannot believe these two personas exist. Is this guy schizo? How can he be so smart in some occasions with Feach, and to be so stupid with his cousin? Almost hooking up with Adriana. And this brings me to my main point about this season is like, oh, Adriana, dude. Adriana. Oh my God. I don't think there's been a time. There have been few moments in TV history where I've just been like, I can't breathe, or like I'm screaming at the TV, just really reactionary moments. One was Making a Murderer, which was absurd. But another one was this one, where just the wind completely went out of my sails. And I was like, I cannot believe this woman is going to suffer this fucking fate. She does not deserve this. She's stuck around with this dickhead, Christopher. And I've been saying this in every episode that I've covered The Sopranos. What the hell is she doing with this guy? This guy, and I said this to my wife, I was like, I don't remember a time when this guy did something nice or said something nice to her. And if he did, it was immediately followed by something shitty. I mean, this guy doesn't just the old school domestic abuse backhand once. This guy is taking his fist and destroying this woman's face. Like right cross, right jab to the jaw. And then choking her almost to death when she reveals what's going on. And this is where the whole family, from Tony to Christopher to Polly, it's like they have these soft spots. But these soft spots, and I guess this is what happens when you take the oath. Like when we saw the ceremony where Christopher takes the oath, it's like this family that you're entering into is more important and takes precedence over every other family. So yeah, I get it, but damn it, dude. You supposedly love this woman, which I don't think he does. I really don't. I think he views her as an annoyance, and she's a slam piece. It's like, oh, she's good to look at, and we have great sex, and that's it. That's really got to be it, because like he just like anytime something disagreeable happens that she presents, he just beats her up. I hope to God that he gets his coming. He has to get his comeuppance. Judgment Day has got to be around the corner for this dude. I just don't understand, and I'm sure there's a bunch of women screaming at me through the screen right now saying like, well, you're a straight white man, you don't understand. And it's like, no, I guess I don't understand, but from just a human aspect of it, as a human, I cannot see how a person can put up with that kind of abuse and still love that person, when there are so many other people out there who are way more kind-hearted and probably just as talented, if not more talented than this dude, who has like next to no talent. I mean, she made a comment about how he should go into male modeling or something like that. I was like, oh my God. She's like in Shallow Hal. It's like her own version of Shallow Hal. What the hell do you see in this guy? I mean, and she stuck with him through the rehab, and she had an exit plan. I mean, Christopher obviously didn't like it, and you could see, I mean, there was such a intense scene when she's telling him about the FBI, and she's like, we have an escape route. I know what to do. We just need to go there, and they'll relocate us, and we'll be fine, and we'll never come back, and blah, blah. And you can just see him seething. And I'm like, he's going to kill her. And he almost kills her. And then, when Tony calls and says that he tried to commit suicide, you're like, something smells fishy here. And then, of course, when Sill's driving her and she's looking at the woods going by, and it's just like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. This girl has been, I mean, you want to talk about, she just didn't deserve any of it. I don't think so. And you can call her dumb for sticking with that, with that guy. I mean, she's the ultimate romantic, that's for sure. The fact that she stuck with him through thick and thin, and she wasn't really necessarily in it for the spoils or the luxuries. I mean, yeah, she enjoyed the benefits of it, but most of the time she was like, you got to stop. You're unhappy. You got to get out of this. You're unhappy. You got to stop. And she had an exit plan, and, fucking A, Christopher, you're the one complaining to her day in and day out on a nightly basis about a lot of things. And most of the things you're complaining about are related to being in the family and Tony Soprano and how hard you worked and how you're not getting anywhere and how all you want to do is drink because of it. And you're surrounded by drinkers and drug users. Your wife owns a nightclub where there's all that going on. So you're constantly surrounded by it in this environment. Why not just say, you know what, Adrienne, yeah, peace out. Let's go. Let's go to LA. I'll go do my writing thing. And it just looked like it was going to happen. And then wax her. So I have zero. I mean, I started off the first episode or two that I met this fucker, Christopher. I was like, nah, I'm not on board with anything you're doing. And now it's even less so, if that's possible. And I cannot wait. I have a feeling, and he almost did get whacked, I forget what precipitated it, but, Tony taking him out to the middle of nowhere and sticking a gun in his face and being like, this is it for you. And then he goes, Christopher talked him out of it. But so it's got to be epic what's coming to him. So looking forward to that. But Tony taking out his cousin Blendetto, Steve Buscemi, it just goes from bad to worse. And it's like, I don't know if you're in that situation, what you do. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. And the fact that, I mean, he made concessions, and there's just no way that Blendetto was going to come out of this alive. I just don't think he should have done it himself, but I understand why he needed to do it by himself, because it was quick and painless, quote unquote, which is what he wanted. He didn't want a long drawn out death, which he knew was going to happen if Phil was the one in charge. But to do it yourself and to take that pleasure away from Phil, you're now poking the bear. Like it's almost worse. I don't know. You've now doubly fucked over Phil Leotardo, because he didn't present him so he could torture him, and then you did it yourself, quick and painless, so he didn't have the pleasure. And I mean, Phil Leotardo's the worst too, so I can understand why you don't want to give in to that prick. But Johnny Sack, my God, it was that's seeing the interactions between Johnny Sack and Tony Soprano are like some of the best in TV, because it's like no matter what Tony is coming at him with, Johnny Sack is like, nope. And it's so crazy to see how at each other's throats characters can be in this series for so long. And this happened with Christopher and Paulie too, where I mentioned in the last episode, where you're at each other's throats for so long. And then it's like one little thing one little trivial little line or sentence or thought or something like that, and they're back to like hugging and kissing each other. What? I don't have that kind of mentality. I don't have that brain, so it's very odd to me. That friggin' Dream episode was a trip. Oh my God. But I'm excited about season 6. I think it's going to be, I think that's going to be the clincher for me to be like, yep, okay, best series of all time. I have very big expectations for season 6. Like what's going to happen with Junior? Like he's definitely falling off the deep end, and he's like, what's going to happen there? I mean, I think Tony Soprano is going to see him as a liability going down, because he's unstable. He's not dependable or reliable. Who knows what he can say to whom at any time. So that's a liability, and you're going to deal with it. So Junior's probably gonzo. And then Bobby's probably going to be pissed that Junior gets dealt with. Bobby's the worst too. I'm sorry. I know I'm supposed to like Bobby, but like, ugh. Just like, he's just so fat. That shouldn't have anything to do with it. I'm not trying to fat shame. I'm fat. But like, he's just so like, how are you able to exist in this ecosystem? You're just so soft all around. Ugh. And it's just not going to end well for him, I don't think. But, oh my God, that shot. Like when Tony's talking to Johnny Sack early in the morning at Johnny Sack's house, and you just see Tony's eyes kind of go right and light up. And you're like, is he going to get whacked right now? You're like, I know he's not going to get whacked, but like, who's coming? Like, this is such an ambush. Oh, yes. And it turns out it's the FBI. So Tony takes off and Johnny Sack gets caught. And Tony, phones his lawyer after running like 3 miles through the woods. And the lawyer's like, no, it's just so-and-so was a rat, and it went up through Brooklyn, and it eventually, ended up getting Johnny Sack, which there's this, I don't know if it's Raymond or whoever, has like multiple tapes of Tony Soprano, like confessing this shit. So it's like, this lawyer seems pretty confident, but like there's another mole in the operation that's going to take down Tony. But you can see like Tony's wearing, especially that conversation with Syl at the Bing when Syl's like, all due respect, all due respect, all due respect, all due respect. And Tony's just like, fuck your respect. You can see like he's his longtime associates, especially when he went to visit Polly to take back that painting. He didn't go there to take it back, but he eventually took it back. And Polly's like, you never visit anymore. He's like looking down like a sad puppy. It's like, oh my God, dude, you're a grown man. But it's true. Like Tony has not, I guess, hasn't really been there, supported his number twos or his crew that he's been with a long time since he's become like the boss, quote unquote. So a lot of speculation and rumors about what's going to happen to Tony. I mean, I kind of know what happens to Tony, but it's interesting to see like who's going to, like, are they all going to turn on him? Or is there going to be like a civil, Avengers Civil War type thing going on where it's like, who's the Tony Stark and who's the Captain America? The Finn and Meadow storyline, I can't stand. I know people like there's a large group of people that are very into Meadow Soprano, and she is an impressive person academically. I like what she's, intellectual, and I admire the path that she's taking to not get sucked into the crime, to lift up the voiceless, and it's all admirable. I get it, but her relationships have stunk so bad. I mean, her and Finn, it's just like all we've seen is just them bicker and fight and complain, and it's just like, oh God, that one scene where Finn is like, it's 4 a.m. and he falls asleep. Dude, cut the guy some fucking slack. He's working his dick off at this construction site, and he got out his bag because he's not thinking clearly. Obviously, he's tired and he's rattled because he just saw a guy get a bottle smashed into his eyeball. And then he saw Vito blowing a security guard in the parking lot. And it's like, there's a lot of stuff that he's just not used to. And Meadow just went berserkerwitz on him, just like full on attack mode, just assaulting him, peppering him with questions. And it's just like, oh. And so then he proposes. It's like, this is just, I can't take this anymore. This is so brutal. I could deal without that. Yeah, so that's the Sopranos. Whew. 2 hours in, we haven't even got to the Mets and the Giants. All right. Let's talk Mets. Someone said this on Reddit, and I agree. 2019 was the most fun I've had watching the non-playoff Mets team probably ever, and that's probably true. Of course, I would say that there were a couple teams in the 80s and maybe 90, 91 that if there is a wild card, they are the wild card, and who knows what they do in the playoffs if they make the playoffs. So I think there are a lot of teams in the 80s, late 80s, mid 80s, early 90s, 90, 91. Those Mets teams would have definitely made the playoffs if there is a wild card, and they probably go far. I don't know how far, but they would have gone far. So those teams were fun to watch. Of course, I was super young, so I don't remember a ton of it, but I know that they were fun to watch. But since then, 2019, definitely one of the most fun seasons to watch that didn't result in the playoffs. I really like the 96, 97 teams. I think when we had like Gilkey and Lance Johnson and those players, Todd Hundley, those teams could be fun to watch. And they had so much potential, and they never met the potential, but they did not do anything anywhere close to what the 2019 Mets did. So I agree with there. And it stinks watching the Brewers Nationals wildcard game last night. Oh, that was just, I was so happy to see the Brewers take it to Scherzer right out the gate, and to see Scherzer struggle, and then having to bring in Strasburg, and they had it in control, cruise control, pretty much the entire game. And then they have and I look away for a second. I know they had runners on base, 2-3 runners on base. And then I look up, and like Juan Soto's going nuts. And I see like beer getting tossed like geysers in the Nationals crowd. I'm like, great. Brewers just blew it. Can't believe it. That was the team I was rooting for. I was pulling for the Brewers the most. Because Cardinals, no thanks. Braves, no thanks. Dodgers, no thanks. Nationals, no thanks. So the Brewers were my team. I was kind of like hoping they would go far, and now it's like I don't even know who to root for. I guess the Dodgers. Just because they haven't won a World Series in a long time, and I have no interest in seeing the Cardinals go. The Braves are, it's like who do you the most? I don't even know what the expression is. The battle of who's the lesser evil. Is that it? I don't know. But I have no interest and I have almost no interest in watching now. The Brewers were it for me. I guess you could say on the AL side, I would prefer the Yankees don't go to the World Series again. I don't know if I would want to see the Astros Dodgers again. I wasn't into that World Series. Rays, A's. You always kind of want to root for the A's just because of Moneyball, but I don't think they're going to go far. So sucks, man. Oh, Juan Soto too. That guy's going to be around for so long. He's going to be so good for so long. Ugh. And the Braves too. Acuna, Matata, whatever the hell. Oh, I just want Josh Donaldson to get his comeuppance. Definitely. All right, back to the Mets. The Mets finished the year on a 46-21 run, I believe. And I read that the Mets are the fourth team in Major League Baseball history with a post-All-Star record of at least 20 games over 500 after entering the break 10 or more games under 500. if you extrapolate that 46-21 run, that's 111 wins. I mean, it's nuts. And a lot of people are attributing the newfound success to Phil Regan, the Vulture, 81-year-old pitching coach who took over for Dave Island. Island? I don't know. But the pitching staff under Eland had a 4.70 ERA, which was 20th in the majors, 35-39, and 16 blown saves, which is the most in the majors. And then under Regan, had a 3.94 ERA, which was 6th best in the majors, and 11 blown saves, which was tied for 7th fewest. The starters under Eland, 4.27 ERA. Under the Vulture, 3.54, which is 4th in the majors. And I know Steven Matz has been like wildly inconsistent. But under Island, he had a 10.78 ERA, the second worst out of 120 pitchers in the majors. And that's in the first inning under Island, and in the first inning under Regan, 4.50 ERA. So Regan done good. Hopefully he'll be back. I think he should be back. He's just got to fix Diaz. I mean, just fix Diaz. Whatever you need to do, fix him. Diaz served up his 15th home run of the season, matching his total from the previous 2 years combined. Oh my God. His 15 homers are a record for a Mets reliever. Oh my God. No one else in franchise history has allowed more than 13 out of the bullpen in a single season. So Diaz had himself a year. Ooh. Woo. That's brutal. On the other hand, Zach Wheeler, his last 41 starts, so this is dating back to August 2018, he had 263 innings pitched, 238 hits, 64 walks, 265 Ks, 3.35 ERA, 1.15 whip. So it's not necessarily Jacob deGrom, but it's the next best thing. So in my mind, roll the dice, open up the checkbook, back up the Brinks, and sign him. I think 4 years. Think about it this way. I could understand not signing him if the next 4 years are a wash and you don't have anyone on the books that is of any value. But we talked about this last episode. You have a lot of people locked up for the next 3 to 4 years, at least. Your core 4, your young talent locked up for the next 4 years. The next 2 to 3 years, you have a lot of talent, homegrown talent, young talent that are going to be in their prime, that are playing, that have played well and are going to probably play even better in the seasons to come. Sign his ass. There's no reason not to sign him. I don't know that you want to go out and get someone else and then they got to adjust and calibrate and blah, blah, blah. Wheeler's been here. He knows the lay of the land. Anytime you bring up trading him, he's like on the brink of tears. So it's like he wants to be here. Reward the man. And then you have deGrom locked up. You've got Wheeler locked up. Thor. I don't think you trade him. I know that I said, fuck it, trade him. But like looking at what's happened to Wheeler and what's happened to deGrom, how, post 26, 27 years old, that's when they start to hit their stride. Thor is right at that age. And I think Syndergaard works out a couple things, just a couple. And I know he had a rough end of the season, but he had some good games during the season. And if Regan can work with him and he can figure out the catcher issue, it's a lot of ifs, I know, but if, dude, that means you have a really good 3 in your rotation with Marcus Stroman, the wild card, who can be your solid number 4. Guys, I mean, like, that's at least 600 winning percentage. That's at least 600 winning percentage. And it's at least getting you into the playoffs for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years. I would be shocked if this team does not make the playoffs twice in the next 4 years. I think they make it at least 3 or 4 times, possibly 4 or 4, because they have that rotation. I mean, it all depends on injuries and staying healthy and all that jazz, which I get. Shit happens. But if everyone stays healthy, for the most part, You're looking at a very nice 4 with Mats. You're kind of like, well, I don't know what's going on here. You might think about moving Lugo into the rotation and sending Mats to the bullpen. The problem is now you're all righties. You're all righties in your starting rotation. So this is where, you know, people smarter than me need to make the decisions, because it's like, yeah, you can't have all righties. Throw all righties out there, but then again, you can't have Mats just like imploding every other game. So yeah, I say sign Wheeler, but I don't think they will. It sucks. Speaking of pitching, DeGrom, his 18.0 WAR, wins above replacement in his last 2 seasons, is the second highest for a Mets player over a 2-year span, second only to Doc Gooden, who had a 19 WAR in 84-85. I mean, what a way to end the season. What a fucking way to end the season. It's so fitting for this season, too. Pete Alonso breaks the rookie home run record. 53 home runs. He broke Aaron Judge's mark from 2 seasons ago. And yeah, I mean, a lot of the home runs probably wouldn't have been home runs without the juice ball. A lot of line drives that probably wouldn't off the top of the wall. A lot of doubles, a lot of long singles. But someone said that 36 of the 53 were over 400 feet, which that's out in a lot of ballparks, in most ballparks. So even if you were to take away 40% of his home runs, I mean, he's still hitting 30 plus home runs, which is, you know, right what you want from your cleanup hitter. I cannot believe that this kid almost didn't make the opening day roster. And this is like mind-boggling what scouts are looking at. And of course, you know where I'm going with this. Pete took a screenshot of a scout's take on Pete. And it read like this, if you haven't seen it yet. He's had a good spring training, referring to Pete. This is from a scout. He's had a good spring training, but I don't think Pete Alonso is that good. He's obviously a polarizing one, which everyone ran with that, me included. I called him polarizing bear. He's obviously a polarizing one. Defense isn't any better. He's still stiff. He's going to have to hit his way. Everyone knows he is. He's hitting fastballs, but that's the thing. Spring training, once you actually try and get guys out, that's going to be interesting. Right now, he's taking advantage of the fastball. I can't recall him ever hitting a slider. I'm not confident that Pete Alonso has the skills to be a hitter. And that was Baseball America, a Baseball America scout on Pete during spring training. And Pete just wrote, here's a lesson. Self-belief and determination is more powerful than what us quote unquote experts think. So God, he's so lovable. He just keeps doing cool things in such a goofball, dorky, wholesome way. It's just like, you know, I think the 9/11 museum, like wanted his cleats, his 9/11 cleats in the museum. And he was just like, I can't believe that you want my dirty, stinky cleats, but this is a great honor. And she's, you know, him even talking about breaking the record. I mean, I watched it. This, you know, I don't know what Aaron Judge did on his 52nd home run. If he got emotional, if he was just like, gave that big, you know, goofy look with the gap tooth, which, you know, I'm not anti-gap tooth. I'm a Michael Strahan guy. Pete Alonso had a human reaction to breaking the rookie record. I mean, him watching the ball and throwing the bat and like, and crying and basically crying in the field and like being unable to describe what was going on in words. I mean, this kid just keeps getting better and better and better. And it's like, if the Wilpons, I mean, it's pointless to say if the Wilpons. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the Wilpons. No, there's no if with the Wilpons. We know what they're going to do. But they should absolutely, if they have any kind of wiggle room, start negotiating a long-term contract with this guy right now. Because I do not see 53 being a fluke. I see this guy being a captain and a leader for the next decade. Man, I mean, just an amazing guy. His parents are amazing. He just continues to impress with like everything he's doing on social media, on the field. And of course, his buddy at first base, Dom Smith, comes off the 60-day IL injury list. and hits a 3-run walk-off homer in the bottom of the 11th to beat the Braves in the season finale, dude. I mean, you can't write a better ending to that. This guy has been there day in and day out, supporting the team, one of the biggest cheerleaders, biggest fans of the team. You know, has had his ups and downs with the organization. Really kind of broke through offensively this year, had his miscues defensively that might have cost us a game or two. But the fact that he stuck with it and was such a huge supporter and then is able to win it with the walk-off, there was a 99-point-something% probability the Braves would win that game after, I mean, who blew it? Diaz, I guess, again. And, of course, Adani Hechavarria comes back to bite us big time, repeatedly crushing us and saying, I thank God I'm not with the Mets, or thank the Braves for taking me away from the Mets. Like, all right, well, fuck you, dude. Don't say the Mets in general. Say the Wilpons. The Wilpons took you away. So thank the Wilpons for leading you to the Braves. The Braves, dude. They're going to be a problem. The Phillies, I couldn't care less about. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a short one for the Mets this week. I went into full detail about, how they go about 2020. I know this, a lot of people saying that, it's Mickey Callaway, didn't even stick around, just took off. And I think that's kind of a sign. I know it might be kind of overstating things, blowing it out of proportion. That's what the media does in New York, and I get it, and I'm subject to it as well. But him just driving away, not partaking in a lot of the, I guess, post-season, post-mortem type things that go on in the organization, that's a sign to me that he's not going to be back. I don't know. And there are people saying he won't be back, and that, Madden's no longer available. I think he went to the Angels, but Clint Hurdle's gone. Or is available, and everyone's saying, I mean, Joe Girardi is the one that everyone's talking about. So it seems like we're leaning towards Joe Girardi. And I was listening to Joe and Evan on FAN, and they're saying we would rather, as fans, we'd rather have you spend a lot on Girardi and not make a lot of big money moves in the off season. We'd rather have that than you go out and spend a lot of money on something that might not work out. I don't know about that, dude. I don't know about that. I mean, I respect Joe Girardi. I think he did really well at the Yankees. I think it wasn't right for him to get canned by the Yankees the way he was. I just he rubbed people the wrong way in that organization, maybe Cashman. But they constantly were making the playoffs, and if they didn't, it was probably out of his control a lot of the time. So it would be nice to have Girardi. But if you're disturbing the chemistry in the clubhouse, I don't know. I've just heard so many players talk so highly about Callaway and how they love having him. And they don't want to see him go. And maybe that is political rhetoric. And it's just they're just trying to save face and, not throw Mickey under the bus. But I don't know. I mean, to just sign Girardi and not make any other moves, I don't know, dude. That bullpen, oof. You definitely need help in the bullpen. And to a certain degree, I think you definitely need an outfielder. And it's crazy to me for Joe and Evan to say that, we don't have a center fielder. We haven't had a center fielder since Beltran. Brandon Nimmo is a good center fielder, in my opinion. And I think you saw, first half of the season, he had the injury. He wasn't playing well. Second half of the season, he was right. It was just what you needed. So I think Nimmo, and he's a young guy too. So I think, you can ride him in center. And Conforto's fine and right. Mickey Callaway says that if the 2020 season were to start today, J.D. Davis is the starting left fielder. And I guess you have McNeil at third and Cano at second. So I don't know. I mean, it just sucks that Cano contract. I know I said it last week, but it bears repeating. That Cano contract really screwed us. And the Lowry contract. 1, 2, those two players, those contracts really screwed us. And I know Joe Panic said he's open to returning. It's like, Joe, I don't know what to tell you, dude, but if Cano and Lowry are healthy and McNeil's healthy and Davis is healthy, I don't know where you fit into things. It's great to have depth, but are you okay with being, way down the food chain? I don't know. I don't know. And I'll finish off by saying that the Nationals are thinking of offering Anthony Rendon $250 million. So no thanks on Anthony Rendon. I don't think there's any way the Mets spend that, even despite the Nats, which, I can understand that. Just despite the Nats, that would be great. But I just can't see them offering that much, especially when you had the shot at Machado this past offseason and Harper. Each of those players, got way more than, not way more, but more than that. I just can't see them offering that to Rendon. Of course, they said they'll probably re-sign Frazier to a 1-year contract or something like that, which, I don't hate. If you sign him for he's earned $9 million over the past 2. Is he going to be okay signing for 3? Even 3 seems like it's a bit excessive. So we'll see. But they're in a good spot. They're in a really good spot. I'm telling you, for the next 4 years, we're gonna feel really good about the Mets, unless disaster happens, which can never rule that out. But I don't think I've ever been this optimistic about the Mets in a long time. So I probably just jinxed the piss out of them. But all right, so that's Mets talk. Let's finish out this mega episode with some talk about the Giants. Okay. We had a week 4 game against the Redskins. We won handedly, 24-3. We have a week 5 game against the Vikings, who are kind of in a state of, they're fluctuating. They're in a state of disarray. I think that they've, the offense certainly has been struggling with Kirk Cousins. He hasn't been able to connect with Adam Thielen. I think Stephon Diggs has been making some subtle suggestions. He wants to go to the Patriots because, why not? Why not? Hey, everybody join the Patriots. What a bullshit move. I'm sorry. But all these guys who want to go to the Patriots and be part of and get a ring, screw you. I know there are ring chasers, and I understand if you're someone like Kevin Durant, I guess I kind of get it. You want to have a ring. You played a long time. You've been in the league a while, and you're sick of losing in the playoffs, and you just want to dominate and get a ring. I get it. I don't get joining the world's greatest dynasty to get a ring. That's where I know that there's probably not a whole lot of differentiation between the two, but joining the Patriots to get a ring, and you nah, dude, who, what is that your legacy? Oh, you got a ring? Oh, who'd you get a ring with? Patriots? The Patriots have 1,000 rings, So Stephon Diggs, dude, you want to get a ring that matters? Join the Giants. But I think the Redskins game, just to quickly recap on that, was mostly highlighted. There was just a lot of press and talk about Landon Collins and Eric Flowers, and neither of those dudes showed up for this game. And I know I'm probably blacking out here or misremembering, but I don't remember Landon Collins being talked about on air during the broadcast or shown at all during the broadcast. I think the only play I can remember is when Ingram runs up and Collins gets called for holding or illegal contact or something down the field on Ingram, and there's a flag thrown. That's the only play. And I didn't even know that was Collins when that was happening because he's wearing number 20, just kind of threw me off. So, and there was someone on Reddit posed a question to the Redskins subreddit saying hey, thoughts on LC so far? And they're like, yeah, he's not worth the money. They're paying a lot of money for that guy. And if you're paying a lot of money for that guy, he needs to be a disruptor. We're talking borderline Ed Reed, Ray Lewis type disruptor. Someone who's physically intimidating the other team, popping the ball out, tipping balls, intercepting balls, not knocking the balls loose, being around the ball, stopping offenses. And okay, you want to make excuses, or you want to say he's adapting to the Redskins scheme or the defensive coordinator scheme sucks and they don't know how to use Landon Collins, okay, but you're also paying this dude a lot of money. So you better figure it out quick because you're not getting your money's worth. I mean, what stinks about Landon Collins is like, and this is the quote from him: when I started there, I wanted to finish there. Speaking about the Giants, I wanted to be one of those guys to finish his career on one team. They didn't give me the opportunity to do that. It's a business. I can't do anything about that. He says that the Giants never made an offer. I mean, if that is the case, yeah, I would be totally bitter because, and I think Odell feels kind of the same way, is that when he got drafted by the Giants, he wanted to finish as a Giant. Once a Giant, always a Giant. And I think Collins had the same kind of mentality, but something was not jiving in the clubhouse with the players, the coaches, the staff. Something was not working, and that's why Gettleman made the decisions he made. I believe Gettleman when he said we didn't sign OBJ to trade him. You know, they had seen enough, and they, in their mind, they said, okay, we're signing you to this mega contract, highest paid receiver in the league. You need to step up and be this leader. And Odell didn't do that. And so I think they looked at Landon Collins and they were like, you are the OBJ of our defense. You know, we can rally around you. You're the captain. And whatever he was doing, I just find it hard to believe that we did not even throw like the franchise tag on Landon Collins. And this is where it becomes a he said, she said, because I swear there were reports from like Dan Duggan or Jordan Raanan or Stapleton or one of the Giants reporters who was like, Giants have floated out the idea of franchise tag and Landon Collins says he would not take it. Something was there. I swear I remember hearing that. So if you're not even interested in the franchise tag, you're not interested in being on the team. And say what you will. I know it's bullshit. You got to be pro player. The owners suck. The owners are awful. You got to be pro player. You got to see it from the player side. You know, the whole, like, you know, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas way of thinking, like the players sacrifice themselves each and every Sunday and put their lives on the line, their bodies in jeopardy and blah, blah. I get all that. But if you really want to play for a team, franchise tag is not the worst way to go about it. You're getting paid above and beyond the average, or at least the average, I believe, unless I'm getting the franchise tag policy wrong. So in my mind, if the Giants did say, what do you think about the franchise tag? And Landon Collins was like, peace out. You can't come back and say they didn't want me. They didn't give me the opportunity. Well, they did. They floated the franchise tag by you to figure out how they can rework the cap to make you a long-term Giant. And you said, no, thanks. So peace out. It's hard to know what to believe. And Collins hasn't always been the most consistent dude. You know, it's like, is he a leader in the clubhouse or is he toxic? You know, you can tend to believe him when he's talking about Eli Apple, but then I don't know. And then of course the game's over and he's like, he's trying to start a fight after the game because I guess Jabril Peppers was jawing him. And it's like, so apparently Jabril Peppers was chirping him and, you know, doing a little trash talking, nothing that's that graphic or obscene. And Collins wanted to go after him. It's like, dude, well, Jabril Peppers came to play and had one of the best games of his career, pick 6 on Haskins, and looked good and made us think, hey, we made the right decision not going with Landon for $10 million plus a year. It's a huge monster contract for a safety who is, to a certain degree, you know, one-dimensional. I mean, I looked in that thread, that Reddit thread, and the Skins fans are saying, how are you putting Landon Collins wide on Tariq Cohen, which is exactly what I've been saying about Landon Collins, you know, leading up to this game. You can't put him on receivers. I don't know that he looked that great against Ingram. So in coverage, he's lacking. So he's great against the run, but like, are you willing to pay that much to stop the run when you desperately need to stop offenses on third down, which is, you know, the Redskins had problems with that heading into this game. They were essentially the Giants' defense of earlier this year and last year and the year before that, and just the inability to get off the field on third down. Giants had a crazy third down conversion percentage against the Redskins, something I've never seen before. And the fact that and Daniel Jones doing things that Eli Manning I don't think has ever done. 3rd and 13, he rushes for 16 and a first down. On a play where it looked like he was definitely getting sacked. And, there was a tweet that said, "This is art." And I wholeheartedly agree. I mean, Daniel Jones has the ability to escape the rush that Eli cannot. So if Eli plays, that's a field goal. I don't know if we scored on that drive. That was either the drive where we score with Wayne on a run, or it's the drive where Hillman fumbles. So, I mean, and Gallman looked good. 100 yards from scrimmage, 2 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing. But he also had a fumble. John Hillman looked good on short yardage. He looks like he could be our short yardage back in Saquon's absence. He also fumbled. So it's like, let's clean up the turnovers, because against a good team, those turnovers are points. The Redskins are so banged up on offense. They're, missing a tackle because he's holding out. And then a couple of receivers are down. They're missing Geis. So, the Redskins on offense are like, very hampered. So they're not the regular Redskins offense that we should expect. But a good team turns Daniel Jones' 2 picks and those 2 fumbles into more than 3 points. Has the potential to be 28 points. And if that's the case, the Giants lose 28-24. So I feel good about the victory. It's great to be 2-2. We're tied with the Eagles. And we have the Cowboys in our sights. The Cowboys, looked like Tyrion Smith, their starting left tackle, got rolled up on, had the ankle injury. It looked like pretty serious, and he's going to be out for a while. But Jerry Jones is saying it's not as bad as people say it is. So, but I mean, the fact that they have to play the Packers, maybe the Pack sneaks one from them, and then they're 3-2, and then we sneak one from the Vikings. And we're 3-2, and now we're looking at the top of the division, which would be sweet. Not to mention that Saquon Barkley has said that he's going to come back early from his injury. It looks like initially it was supposed to be like 4 to 8 weeks, and then it was reduced to 4 to 6 weeks, and now he's walking without a boot. So the guy's superhuman. I expect him to play like in 2 weeks. Daniel Jones has the 3rd highest QBR behind Dak Prescott and Patrick Mahomes for the first 4 weeks. And if anyone doubted the choice, which, that was, if you watched my live stream from the draft when they picked Daniel Jones, I was upset. I was disappointed. I thought Dwayne Haskins, if we're going to go QB, Dwayne Haskins was the pick, because Haskins was a big Giants fan from growing up. And I didn't know that Daniel Jones had ever worn an Eli Manning jersey as a kid. And so I thought Haskins goes to the Redskins, and I was like, oh, great. He goes to Washington, where he can just like take out his anger on us 2 times a year. And it turns out, looks like we made the right choice. Daniel Jones is legit. Haskins is still struggling. Jay Gruden has no confidence in Dwayne Haskins. It looks like they're actually going to think about Colt McCoy. Did I read that right? Possibly coming in. I don't know. Gruden's got to be done. I mean, I know that he's faced a lot of adversity and challenges, with guys getting hurt and whatnot. But if you don't have any, it's tough to not have any confidence in your first round quarterback that you drafted, that you thought would be the future. That's not great. Of course, the really sad news from last week. We go from a high to a low. Ryan Connolly. Oh, this guy was like my new favorite guy on defense. He's getting sacks, he's getting interceptions, and then he tears his ACL. He's out for the season. They placed him on IR. Oh, God. What a brutal blow, because we're already thin at linebacker. Ogletree's kind of still out. He might be out this week. And then Tay Davis is in concussion protocol. I know that they called up Josiah Toyofoe. I don't know how to pronounce it. But if you remember, I was kind of surprised that he didn't make the team, out of preseason, out of training camp, because he's among Pro Football Focus's highest graded rookies this preseason. So he did, when he was on the field, he did well. Of course, he's playing against backups and guys that will never play in the NFL, but the fact that he was able to excel in time given to him, we'll see what he's got on this level at this stage. But I mean, the linebacker is going to be huge weakness for us for a while. Although I will say this, David Mayo, who they picked up from the Panthers, I believe, shocker. Our team is all Panthers and Cardinals. He looks like he's playing well. So I think that's a very low-key, underrated signing by us, acquisition, David Mayo. He looks a lot like Ryan Connolly. Golden Tate's coming back from the suspension. So Benny Fowler and TJ Jones got released, which, it sucks. I mean, I was saddened when TJ Jones didn't make it out of preseason and was cut. And then he went and fumbled 2 punts this past game. It's like, ugh. It's like you were doing so well and doing so much for us in a time of need, and now you're gonzo. Benny Fowler is a little surprising to me, just because Russell Shepard is on IR, and now Benny Fowler, who, was able to fill in during the Bills game and took a lot of shots in some tough areas, but he did drop that one ball, right? That was Fowler. So, you got to make room somewhere. And I guess those two had to go. Very curious to see how Golden Tate operates with Daniel Jones, because I don't know that he worked a lot with Daniel Jones in training camp. I feel like Eli got most of the snaps with Golden Tate, and Eli might have had a great rapport with him. I could see Eli working well with Tate. I don't know about Jones and Tate, but I mean, Tate, Ingram, Shepard, I like it. With Slayton. I mean, you can't forget about Darius Slayton. I know he didn't have a great game against Washington, but he's still a threat. You still gotta account for him. And I said this in the last episode, and I got a comment saying that no, don't get ahead of yourself. I don't think the Giants won the OBJ trade yet. And I'm like, well, I know. It's a little clickbaitish of me to say they won the trade, but as of right now, not so bad. Dexter Lawrence, 12.1% pass rush win rate. O'Shane Zimenez is a top 4 rookie edge win rate. Right there with Josh Allen, who a lot of people wanted the Giants to draft Josh Allen. Jabril Peppers is finally looking like he could be as good as Landon Collins, if not better. And the offense is averaging 28 with Daniel Jones. So, Beckham has not done a whole lot other than that Jets game where he went off for 155 and a touch. Unless Freddie Kitchens figures it out, maybe Beckham goes to a Pro Bowl, but they gotta figure out how to get them the ball in space. And, and I'm so glad we don't have to deal. And, I don't know what to think with Odell anymore. It's tough, but to see him like getting choked out by a Raven on the field, it's like, I know I'm not supposed to laugh, but it's like, I'm so glad we don't have to see that anymore. Because it's like you don't know how it came to be, and so you're just racking your mind about whose fault is what and all this jazz, and it's just like, so glad to not have to deal with that. Who knows what stemmed from that, what led to that. The Ravens are saying it's Odell. Odell is saying I'm being targeted, and it's like, I don't know, dude. Play football. He's an intense competitor, and I like that. And I mean, someone cut together a compilation of Lawrence Taylor's best plays. And it set to a really sick, like almost like movie soundtrack. And Taylor played with the same kind of fiery intensity. He's throwing his helmet and is barking and and we love that. But was Taylor more consistent on the field? I think that might be the difference. And it's kind of unfair to Odell. And I know I'm like wishy-washy and flipping back and forth on Odell, but it's hard because you can't, I'm not in the camp of just condemning him and saying he's a cancer and he's the worst. I can't do that, because if he were a Lawrence Taylor-esque player on the defensive side of the ball and put up the kind of numbers that Taylor did year in and year out on a consistent basis, I think he'd probably still be a Giant. But the fact that he was on offense playing wide receiver and he depends on someone else to make plays. See what I'm saying? Taylor rushes the quarterback. He doesn't need someone to rush the quarterback. He can just do his thing, use his talents. He doesn't necessarily depend. Yeah, sure, there are stunts you can run with the defensive lineman, and there are schemes that you can chalk up and dial up for Taylor. But 9 times out of 10, he's lining up over the left tackle, and he's gone. And he's doing his thing to get to the quarterback. And so that's why I think, people can not respect him, but Taylor can be a lifelong Giant because he doesn't depend on other people like OBJ had to. He had to depend on Eli. He had to depend on the play caller, whether it be Shermer, McAdoo, Gilbride? No, McAdoo or Shermer. So I feel for OBJ. And it must be frustrating because I don't think he wanted to go to Cleveland, yet he goes to Cleveland and he finds himself in a pretty good spot with Baker and Jarvis and Joku and Chubb and a really good looking offense that has not done a lot. I mean, yeah, they put up 40 on the Ravens, but is that the reality moving forward? Or is the Ravens defense not what we thought it was? I'd like to think that the Ravens D is not what we thought it was. I mean, how did the Rams give up 50 plus to the Bucks in their home turf and hold Cleveland to 13 on theirs? I mean, football is a wacky sport, dude. So, meanwhile, our defense looks like it's coming around. Maybe this is 2007 all over again, where 2007 we gave up all kinds of crazy 30 plus points in the first 2 games and then we settled down. Same thing's kind of happening with our defense. We allowed 91 points in the first 10 quarters of the season. So that's week 1 and week 2, first half of week 3. And then we've allowed 6 points in the last 6 quarters. Yes, it's against the Redskins, who were depleted and decimated. I get it. And yes, it was in the second half of the Bucs game. Maybe the Bucs kind of took their foot off the gas pedal. And Jameis gonna Jameis. I understand that, but the Vikings are struggling offensively, big time, in my opinion. And I think that this is going to be a true KPI. It's going to be a big time beacon, a signal to us as a fan base. Are we ready or are we not? This is the test, folks. The Patriots, I mean, we know what we can expect from the Patriots game, potentially. But this Vikings game, they have a potent offense. Dalvin Cook, Thielen, Diggs, we mentioned it, Kyle Rudolph, like they have the weapons, they have the tools. It's all dependent on Kirk Cousins. And what have we learned about Kirk Cousins? That against really good teams, he stinks for the most part. Against average or below average defenses, that's where he tends to excel. So are we an average or below average defense? We've kind of been through the first 2.5 weeks, but not so much in the last week and a half. So if we're really going to make a run at this thing, and I know we're only a quarter into the season, but we have a legit shot at 9-7, 8-8, 9-7, 10-6. If our defense is what I hope it is. I mean, right now we're third in the NFL in defensive third 3 and outs, which that's a huge step up in the right direction. You know, I mean, they had third and 30 something against the Rams and they scored in 2017. So, you know, that's been the key. And if they want to win each and every week, it looks like Daniel Jones is going to get you first downs on third down, no matter what the distance. This guy's not going to cop out most times. He's going to try and get you the first down on third and long. You know, looks like we can pick up first downs on third and short with a running game. So third downs offensively looks like we're in the right spot. Of course, the Vikings defense is legit. So again, this is the test. Is Daniel Jones just playing bad defenses, or is he going to step up and look good against the team, the league's best units? So if we get blown out in this game, that sucks. If we lose by a touchdown or less, I know no moral victories, but I'd be willing to take that, because in my mind, that can be motivation to say, hey, this Minnesota Vikings team, despite what struggles they have on offense and what's going on with the offensive side of the ball, the fact that we were, went punch for punch with them, they are a pretty heavyweight team in the NFC North. Now that Trubisky's hurt in Chicago, even though they couldn't beat Chase Daniel, and we did, they're no joke, and the Lions are no joke, and the Packers are no joke. So it'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting. It's a huge test, and I think the Giants are up to the task, despite what's going on at the linebacker position. I think Betcher has kind of found his groove with this defense, especially DeAndre Baker, and especially Janoris Jenkins. Janoris Jenkins won the NFC Defensive Player of the Week after getting 2 interceptions and after batting a ball that ended up being picked off by Ryan Connolly. So apologies to Jenkins, because I thought he was mailing it in and phoning it in. And maybe he was. And then he saw the come from behind victory and he was like, I got to get my shit together. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Because he was like, for the first 2 weeks, he was getting into that 2017 Jackrabbit mode where he's like walking out of practice and walking out of the facilities. And he's like, nobody got time for that. Like that Janoris Jenkins. I think we're trending towards that this year, the first 2 weeks. And then you have to come from behind victory against the Bucs. And he's like, all right, I need to step it up. And so he did against the Redskins again. And, it's the Redskins and they didn't have much going for them. But the fact that he was able to have such a great game is phenomenal. And then, DeAndre Baker as well has proved a lot of people wrong the past week and a half. Chris Godwin, who he was on in that Bucs game, is one of the top receivers in the league, top 5, I think, when you look at the numbers, the stats. So kudos to Baker. Hopefully he keeps it up. Whatever you're doing, Betcher, keep it up. But I found this Players Tribune article with AJ Green. He talks about the 5 toughest corners he's ever faced. And Janoris Jenkins made the list. Now, this was, I want to say this was written before the 2017 season. And so, Janoris only had 1 season with the Giants and he had a phenomenal season in 2016. So take it or leave it for what it's worth. But I think this quote, when he writes about Jackrabbit, is for the most part still applicable in 2019. He says, quote, Janoris isn't going to jam you. He's going to sit back and read you until you make a mistake. What makes him so dangerous is that he doesn't care if he gets beat. In his mind, you might get behind him 2 or 3 times a game, but he knows he's usually got help over the top. And as a receiver, you don't have help. So if he jumps your route once, he's going for 6 the other way. Janoris has a technique that's completely different from Pat and Joe because he uses, Patrick Peterson and Joe Hayden, because he uses a soft back pedal off the line. So while the other 2 cornerbacks want to dictate your route, Janoris is the opposite. He lets you do your thing and then he reads your hips and the quarterback's eyes to decide when to jump on the route. His instincts are the best in the NFL and he's extremely quick. He's not looking at you. He's looking right at your quarterback, trying to read him. So very interesting because even Janoris does this to a certain extent. It's like Jackrabbit calls himself Lockdown. He has lock emojis in his username on Twitter and Instagram. And so when you think lockdown cornerback, you think someone that is going to be up in your face, press coverage, man to man, bumping you at the line and is covering you like white on rice. And, I haven't studied enough game tape, obviously, because Jenkins doesn't do that. So it's weird for him to say lockdown. It's not like lockdown in my mind. When I think of lockdown, that's not lockdown. The way he plays the game, which is I'm going to play off of you and I'm not reading you, I'm reading the quarterback and I'm going to jump routes and I'm going to soft back pedal. And it's a lot of like baiting So that doesn't, to me, doesn't scream lockdown. So it's interesting to hear that. And you got to just accept that he's going to get beat once or twice a game, and hopefully it doesn't end in 6. But then there's the potential that he picks it and takes it for 6. So, I mean, we kind of knew that going into signing him in 2016, that he was going to be a gamble and he's a risk taker, but I'm just glad he's finally starting to come around. And my assumption is that, I don't know, who do you put on Diggs? You put Jackrabbit on Diggs, and then you put Baker on Thielen. Should be interesting. I watched the Evan Engram was mic'd up for the Redskins game, and it was. I mean, you know, just seeing this, and I know like I'm very susceptible and vulnerable and easily influenced on a lot of stuff. And this video convinced me that Evan Engram needs to be a Giant for a long time. That's all it took, because you see him with Wayne Gallman. It's Wayne Gallman starting in place of Saquon, and he's telling him embrace the moment. And people were focusing on embrace the moment. And what follows is what made me look at Evan Engram in a different way, and also his interaction with Daniel Jones. But first with Wayne Gallman, he says, don't get too high, don't get too low. Incredible advice from a guy who's in his 3rd year. So, and he's now giving like rousing speeches pregame to his club. And he's telling Wayne, he's trying to psych him up, but he's also trying to keep him level headed. Like, don't get too high, don't get too low, embrace him. Essentially saying live in the present, which is great. Phenomenal advice. And then he's picking up John Hillman after the fumble, tearing up Landon Collins. And I love that he danced after Jabril Peppers had the pick 6. He looked exactly like one of the guys from LMFAO. It's like, bum, 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 bum. I'm sexy and I know it. But I love the number 1 moment from, or number 2 moment, 2 more moments from this mic'd up with Evan Engram from the Redskins game. When he's talking to Daniel Jones, I can remember seeing Jeremy Shockey and Plaxico Burress literally just like eating Eli Manning's face, telling him that he needs to get them the ball. I'm open. Give me the ball. Give me the ball. I'm open. Evan Engram talks to Daniel Jones, and he said, and he comes at it from a much more composed angle, and he's being extremely smart about the way he talks to Daniel Jones. Hey, so the safety's coming over top me. He's playing on the outside. I think if I make a move inside, I can maybe get double move outside, blah, blah, blah. And Daniel's like, yeah, I mean, I see that. And they're talking game. They're not just saying, I'm open, throw it to me. Evan's saying to Daniel, you know, make your reads. He's not saying, throw me the ball. He's saying, here's what's happening to me, but make your reads. So in a way, he's saying, hey, I know I can get open if this happens, but I want you to make your reads. So, I mean, like that alone, if you're Giants management and you're Gettleman, whoever, Mara, this is your guy. This is your tight end. You don't have to worry anymore about what his outcome is. You know it. He just sealed his fate with that video and the way he talks to Daniel Jones and the way he brings up his teammates and is a motivator and is bringing a great level of energy. But the thing that really cemented it for me, and this has been a knock on Evan Engram for a long time, is that dude can't block, right? Ryan Kerrigan, who's an outstanding defensive end for the Redskins, linebacker, whatever. He does the Shawn Michaels pose after sacks, which is pretty cool. And I hate to admit it because he's a Skins guy. But the fact that Kerrigan, and who knows, maybe he is doing this to get in Engram's head, but he complimented Evan Engram on his blocking. Hey, man, you've gotten way better at your blocking. And Engram was like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Like, that's huge. I know. Maybe Kerrigan's trying to get in Engram's head by being polite. He's taking the Andrew Luck route of, you know, trash talking, of trollery. But I tend to believe that was a real genuine moment. And it's phenomenal to hear, phenomenal to see that Evan Engram is now working on his blocking. He's better on his blocking to go with his already outstanding pattern running, catching ability. I don't think he's dropped the one ball from Eli, unfortunately. But I mean, no one can match up on this guy. I mean, he had 7 targets, 4 catches, 54 yards. One of them was the 31-yard gain. But that one gain was like, we've seen that almost every week now, where he puts a move on a linebacker or a safety and he catches the ball and he's gone. And no one's within 10 yards of him, and he's running real fast. So if we can expect that every game, that's cool with me. So, I think we've got a real shot at taking down the Vikings. And if we can do that, we're in a good position. The Patriots, who knows? I mean, we should have beat them in 2015. If Landon Collins catches an interception, that game is over. We get the dub. So who knows what Daniel Jones can pull out of his magic hat for this game. So I'll leave you with this. We're almost done. I just want to leave you with this. I'm a Devils fan. Shocker. I've been following the Devils since 87, I'd say, maybe 88, back when they were wearing the reds and the greens. I remember watching them play against the Bruins in the playoffs in 87, 88, I think. I watched Messier or whoever score on us in 93, the 93-94 season that sent us packing. I remember the first Stanley Cup, 94, 95, 2000, 2003. And I'm excited about Devils hockey again. I'm not a diehard fan. I don't know the complete history. I know a lot of the top players back when they were winning a lot of games and a lot of cups. But they had a hell of a off season. They picked up PK Subban multiple years. They got Wayne Simmons for a year. Wayne won the Mark Messier Leadership Award last year, which the more leaders that you have in the clubhouse, the better, in my opinion. And so now we have Taylor Hall, who was hurt most of last year, Nico Hischier, first round draft pick Jack Hughes. Taylor Hall and Andy Green are in contract years. So, that's extra motivation for them to play well and get that big money. If it's not with the Devils, then so be it. But I predict they will make the playoffs. And I strongly believe that they will get through the first round. And then we'll get to the second round. And then what happens after that, we'll never know. We won't know until it happens. But and the odds are, they have the best odds out of the New York teams. I think the Islanders and Rangers have more of a long shot to hit the playoffs. But huge pickup on Subban. And if Hall can stay healthy, you're going to see a lot more goals. And Mackenzie Blackwood, who they no longer have a blockade, which that's a tough loss. But if Schneider can get back to form after being hurt, and that's a good combo, Schneider and Blackwood and net. So expecting big things out of the Devils. Some people are saying they're going to finish 4th in the Metro, which would be nice. But let's go Devils. Let's go Giants. Let's go Mets. Let's go movies. There's a lot of movies coming out, and I'm not able to see them in the theater. But so that's it for this week. If you want to hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, you won't. But it's screen name Real Cinch. Call the hotline, which I don't even check anymore, but it's cool to say. Should call the hotline. Leave a voicemail. 862-BIT-1986. And we'll talk to you next week. Adios, muchachos.